I'm going to give an example here that really solidifies it in one aspect for me, what love is. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Interstellar.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's my absolute favorite movie.
Wow.
But there's one reason why. It's because there's no force in the universe that could move faster than the speed of light. Nothing in the universe.
It's still not discovered to this day.
Yeah. Like whatever dark matter and dark energy is, that's a whole other conversation. We just don't know yet. But for now, we don't know anything that moves faster than light.
Yes.
And in quantum physics and quantum mechanics, there's like certain particles that will move in a certain way that defies the laws of physics, which is why it's such a hard concept for a lot of people to understand and grasp. But whoever that female actor is in that movie, she says one thing, that love transcends space and time.
Wow.
How can I be attracted to someone that's galaxies away and I will travel to the ends of the universe for someone I love? Nothing is stronger than that force.
Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Wealth is Possible. On today's episode, we're going to be talking with Kasra, who recently published his second book, Realizations. So Kasra's been actually writing for 12 years and started when he was 18 years old. So he published his first book, Acts of a Savage, at the age of 23. And we're going to be talking to him about his writing process and the process of getting a book published, his day trading journey. He's actually a day trader as well. And his unique perspective of life. So, what is up, Mr. Kasra? How are you doing today?
Yo, thank you for having me. I just want to say that before we start, though, I do want to tell you guys, like, you may not know it, you probably do, but like, you guys are an inspiration, and you guys are giving a lot of value to a lot of people. And they may not say anything. They may not even comment. Like, they may not even follow you guys on social media. Yeah. But like, they're definitely listening.
On that note, make sure you guys subscribe and follow and do all that good shit, so we can,
absolutely
do something out here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we can help more people see what we have to share.
There we go. There we go.
Like, I've listened and watched a lot of your episodes. Not all of them whole way through, but partially as well. Yeah. And there's a lot of value in what you guys are doing. So like, definitely keep it up.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah,
appreciate it, man. Bro. And if you guys just found us through YouTube, you can actually check us out on Instagram and TikTok. So all the main nuggets that our guests say, we pick the most fire shit and we make like TikToks and reels out of them. So instead of, not everybody wants to sit down and watch like an hour, 20 minutes of like footage. So if you guys, want that short form content, just go on our pages and we have all that ready for you. And we're also on Twitter as well now.
Alrighty then. So Kasra, tell me, what got you into writing 12 years ago?
The journey, it was an emotional one. Like, that's originally what got me into it.
Okay.
I realized like writing is for me because I didn't choose it. You know what I mean? It's not like I sat down one day and I'm like, you know what? Like, maybe I should write. It was something that I was drawn to because like I had no other outlet. I had no other thing I could go to be like, I need to express myself. Like, otherwise, like, I don't know how I'm going to move forward. And the way it started is like, I've told a few people this story, but I used to work at this old job that used to have like a little kiosk in the middle of the mall. And I remember one day I was just going through some shit. I was like 18, 19. And we used to have these lead cards where like we would take down customers' information and write down their name, numbers, and address and stuff. And I remember like sitting in the middle of the mall and flipping it and just like writing out something. And I remember what that first ever thing I wrote. There are older instances where like I realized I can write, but it wasn't something that was like conscious.
It didn't really click at those times.
Yeah. Looking back now,
you're just like, yo, I'm sick at writing.
Yeah. Or I didn't even realize. Like teachers like in school were like, oh, like this is a great story you wrote. You know what I mean?
No, I feel you. I feel you.
But for me, it didn't click. I'm like, okay, like whatever. I just half-assed it. Like,
but it was at this moment in the mall.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that first thing I wrote is actually in the first book I wrote, and it was called Faceless Monsters. That's the first thing I ever wrote consciously.
What inspired you to write that? Who was the faceless monster in that situation?
The faceless monsters were the people in the mall at the time, because I remember sitting down and I was going through some shit like with my family and just everything. I was going through it, and I remember sitting down in that it was literally a booth in the middle of the mall. It was like a cross mall. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I was right in the
middle. A plaza.
No, like in the mall, it was like a cross, like the shape of the mall.
Okay.
And I was sitting right in the middle, and like everybody could see me.
Trippy.
Yeah.
So you have people walking
all directions. Yeah. And I sat down, and that was kind of the time when like I didn't really have a place to stay.
What do you mean you didn't have a place to stay?
Like I didn't have like a home. Just got off the phone call, and like I found out like I don't have a place to stay.
Oh shit.
And so I sat back down after that phone call, and I was just like, yo, like these people that are walking by have no idea. Like they have no idea what I'm going through. Right? Like they may just look at me, they don't even see me, and like everybody's going through their own little thing, and like we're all these like faceless monsters just walking. That's where like that inspiration came from. And then from there, every time I would get to work, I would literally flip through the back of the lead cards and just write some shit. And I remember like my manager would be like, "Oh shit, like you're selling a lot," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm selling a lot."
But
like
lead cards are disappearing,
right? Because I would like fold them up and put them in my pocket and take home.
Oh, okay,
right. I still have a lot of those.
Oh shit.
I still kept them.
Make it turn into an NFT, you know?
But like digitalize it and then
yeah, so that's how it all started.
Okay.
And the journey obviously is like a really complex one, but that's where it all began.
Okay.
Damn, bro. Did you end up finding a spot to stay after? Like
Yeah.
Okay.
After like a few days, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do in between?
Just whatever the fuck I could do.
Jeez.
I was like with my ex at the time, and
fuck.
I had like a lot of pride, so I didn't even want to stay with her.
Yeah.
I would just stay wherever I could. It was on some like weekend shit, you know?
Yeah.
Yo, that's some hard shit.
You did what you had to do. You made it happen. You
And
survived.
You know,
Yeah,
you became
yeah.
a writer and shit. You know? Like,
Okay.
the hectic time, yeah.
So at what point during your writing process did you decide I want to publish my work?
The first book was published in 2015, so 7 years ago. I was 23 at the time.
That's Acts of a Savage, right?
Yeah. I have that tatted on me too here.
I know. Yo, you know what's crazy? I'll tell you guys a little story. I gotta cut you. I gotta kind of interrupt you.
Yeah.
So Kasra and I actually worked at like an insurance company together, and then I remember like one day, good times. I remember I always see him like in the hallways, like just walking by and shit. I was like, "Yo, this guy seems mad chill."
Yeah.
You ever see those memes where the guy's just like this? And you're like, "Yo, I don't know you're cool like that."
Yeah. I didn't know you'd chill like that.
Yeah, you chill like that, right?
You guys had that office moment.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this guy's sick. But I never like really talked to him, right? And like I seen his tattoo. I think I came up to you and I asked you about it, right?
I think so, yeah.
Because I had a tattoo at the exact like before I had a sleeve, I had one tattoo like at the exact same spot. It's the exact same spot.
And that was your brand.
And that was my brand and that's his brand. So I'm like, yo, bro, what is that, right? And you're like, yo, I think you told me like, yo, it's my book and all that stuff. And I'm like, yo, bro, what the fuck's my brand? Right? And it's on the same spot. I'm like, yo, what's guy's cool?
And I was like, I didn't know you chill like that.
Yeah, I know you chill like that, right? And then like, we we dapped it up and shit. And then that's how I first met Kasra, like through the name of the book, Acts of a Savage.
Yeah.
And I think I bought a book like shortly after that. Yeah. I still have it.
You do, eh?
I still have it.
So
it's in my collection.
Yeah. So when there's gonna be a lot more, right? You gotta add to that collection.
Fuck, you know, you gotta put me on the subscribe, put on the auto subscribe thing, you know.
At the time, I was in college, and I remember like I had from the moment I started writing. So that was like about 5 years at that point.
Okay.
Of like writing.
And like how many pieces of work would you say you written up to that point?
A lot, bro. Like I can't even give you a number. It was like hundreds of entries.
Okay. And this is all like fiction, non-fiction, like
it wasn't at the time. None of them were stories.
Okay.
All of them were either poetry or
insightful work,
or in just like self-expression, just expressing how I feel.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was in college at the time, and I was really into art, painting and stuff, and like art history. That's kind of been my thing for a long time.
Yeah, you have like a lot of like Van Gogh.
Yeah. Like I just love art, and I remember like thinking to myself that I want to put together a body of work. And so I started to slowly like go through all the writings I had and like try to put them together. The first book, really, to be quite honest with you guys, was never meant to be sold. It was put together simply so I could prove to myself that like I can create a body of work. And I just
and so that you knew that you can go through the whole process and put it out there and know that you did that.
Exactly.
What made you want to be like obviously like okay, people will like they write their journal, some people like they write poetry and stuff and just kind of keep it hidden. What made you want to like go through the process of like having it like turn into like an actual print published book?
I think it gets pretty dark to answer that question.
Just go there.
But like I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. At the time, I didn't think I had much time left to live.
Oh shit.
For a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if I'm not here tomorrow, somebody needs to know that I wrote. Somebody needs to know that like I like to express myself and like these are the thoughts I'm having. And so people could take that and give them a reason to continue, you know,
and use it in whatever way. And
I was like, I got to get this out. It was literally like it was almost like a Tupac moment. You know how like this guy would like literally record songs. And like every day he'd be in the studio recording songs.
And he made he did a lot in those few years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me,
because he knew that he was something. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought like I got to put together this as soon as possible and like put it out immediately. And like I sold it just because I thought that was the right thing to do, but like I just wanted there to be copies for the day that I'm gone.
Okay.
That's where the idea came. And then like looking back now, it should have never been sold because like it's not the greatest piece of work. And I say this to myself respectfully because like it's not coherent. A lot of the entries and my writing is very rudimentary. Like if you compare my writing now, it's so much better.
Yeah, you've evolved for sure, right?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I've evolved as a writer and an artist.
Yeah.
Whereas then it was really like I didn't know who I was. What style I wanted to do. And a lot of the stuff was really dark. And also that book was designed to be as rebellious as possible.
That's why it's Acts of a Savage.
Yeah, and the Acts of a Savage, the name, I actually came up with it in a mall. I was like, ironically, I was in a mall again. I was walking one day and then like that's where the idea came to me. And it is funny because like the Acts was supposed to be like a Shakespearean thing because it was like chapters.
Yeah.
You know, like Shakespeare's
I never knew that. Yeah.
And the savage part is because of an artist. He was a French artist named Paul Gauguin, and he created a book. He like literally left France, went to Tahiti, and like drew and painted in Tahiti. And he created a book, and his emphasis, like when I read it at the time, was about the savage in you, right? So it's kind of like acts, so like the chapters and the entries are acts of a savage.
Okay. But it also works as like a savage, like what a savage would
be.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And is that book still available right now, or did you take that off?
Yeah, because Vint actually told us. So Vint, our other co-host, he actually told us like off camera. He's like he went on your website and he didn't see your first book. Is that the reason why you haven't put it on your kaswitlove.com website? Is it because you don't want that to be published anymore? Like, so you don't want anyone to buy that book ever?
No.
Fuck. So saying the book that I have right now is gonna go up in value and shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yo, guys, shoot me a DM. My Instagram's down below.
Check the eBay link.
Check the eBay link.
I still have about 50 copies. It's still in my room.
Okay.
Pristine copies.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know if you want to get rid of it, eh?
But yo, to be honest, that experience is literally what allowed me to create this.
Okay.
Without that, I would have been stuck on this. Like I wouldn't have known what to do.
Why don't you show them your book and like just talk about like your
That's
like
the book
the
right
cover
there.
and stuff?
This is the second book. This is the recent one that came out called Realizations.
So what's your typical writing process like leading up to the publication of a book?
Well, I guess I'll talk about this one because the first one was very just chaotic.
This is basically like your main, like your first main.
The first one's just like a compilation of all like a bunch of small works that you just kind of put together, right? It doesn't really tell you a story all the way through, does it?
In a sense it does, but like I said, it's not really coherent. It goes in and out of like the main story, and even the way I put it together it wasn't
planned to be a book from the beginning when you wrote those entries, right? It's kind of a rash kind of choice.
It was very rash.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question again?
Yeah, so my question is what is the writing process like leading up to the publication of a book and basically, you know, writing those entries for the types of books you write?
It's gonna change a lot, that process, but I'll tell you like the process for this one. It was May 17th, 2020 when I wrote the first entry of this book, and I titled that The Book of Realizations. And it wasn't a book, I just literally titled it that. And so the goal was this idea that like, how can you consider yourself a writer or a swimmer or whatever it is that you are if you're not doing the actual act? I think I've said this before. You know,
the acts of a writer.
Right. You know? And so I thought to myself, and I'm like, it's been, at the time was about 8 years, I think, that I considered myself a writer mentally. But then I came to myself and I'm like, where's the actual writing?
No, that's huge.
Am I writing?
That's huge.
I'm not. So that's huge. Am I a fraud?
You
know, it's like I was.
Yo, you tend to have that identity crisis. I feel like this happens with like literally anybody who's doing anything. Like, you know, like whether you're an entrepreneur or trying to build a business, whatever, or like, you know, if you're trying to be like an artist or whatever, you know, you identify as this person, but like, hey, if you're not doing the work, you're not putting it out there, then you kind of feel like a fraud, you know, which is it's pretty cool how you went to that. You know?
And then so the plan was for 365 days I would write every single day, and that's what happened.
So you never miss a day?
I did miss a day. I missed a few days, and you'll notice in the book like there isn't every single day in there either.
There isn't 365 pages or entries in a sense.
So I took out a few entries and stuff just because like the expectation wasn't to write and create gold every time. The expectation was to get into the habit of what it looks like to write every day.
So were these entries like journal entries in a sense, or did you know every time you wrote these entries it was going to be for this book?
No. So it was about 25% in where I realized like I would go back and I realized like, holy shit, there's powerful stuff in here. And then I went back to the beginning and I realized the book of realizations, and I was like, what if this becomes my second body of work?
Yeah.
And that was about 5 years after the first book. And the crazy thing is like, at the time in 2015, no one knew I was writing. I was shortly telling you this.
Yeah, you're showing me. You showed me. Yeah.
And like, nobody knew I would write. My parents didn't really know.
They still don't really know, do they?
They do. I mean, both my parents, like, they realized this is who I am now, so
they accepted it.
They accepted it. Yeah. But yeah, no one knew.
They're not gonna like tell you to like, hey, stop writing, right?
They've tried.
Really?
Like,
it's like that. No,
not to stop writing, but it's like, oh, it's a distraction. Like, it should be a hobby.
Don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
They didn't realize like, yo, this is like bigger than everything else that I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I feel inside my soul. Like, how are you gonna tell me not to do that?
Yeah.
You know, 25% in, I was like, you know what, this could turn into something. And so I started to be more conscious of my writing. And as it goes on, like, I don't know if you guys have read it at all, but like, if you read it from page 1 to the end, you'll realize like the progression, it's literally a journey. And you'll see the progression in me identifying as this person, because now I'm doing this every day. Now, every day when I wake up, it doesn't matter what time of day I'm writing, that's what I'm thinking about. Whereas before, it'd be like a side thought. It'd be like something in the back of my mind. Now it's a conscious thought every day. You know? And that's what like cements that idea of who you are. It's that habitual act to do something every day.
And then you identify as that person.
And you identify as that person.
It's like somebody who like starts like rock climbing, for example, right? Like you rock climb every day, and you like that. That's what you're doing. You become a rock climber. You know, if you rock climb, like if you can rock climb once, doesn't mean you're a rock climber. That means you went rock climbing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is what I was actually gonna say. After the book came out in 2015, I stopped writing for about 3 years. 3-4 years. Never wrote a page.
Why was that? Was there a reason for that?
The reason was because like there was a lot of shame involved, where I just felt like the thoughts that I have, I don't want to face. And like a lot of darkness and sadness that I wasn't ready to face. And I was like, you know what? Like, fuck this shit almost. You know what I mean? I'm allowed to swear on here, right? Yeah. So I was like, fuck this shit.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
You know? So like, I was like, fuck this shit. I don't like, it's not really doing anything for me. And like, it's too dark. It's too sad. Like, I was tired of the act itself. In those times, what's unique is that like, I stopped writing like how I write now. But what I didn't realize was like almost every day I was writing songs. And like a lot of people don't know, but I write songs.
Like shit. They like rhyme and shit.
Like actual like R&B and like rap songs.
No way.
I just don't have the voice. Like, I'm not a rapper. I'm not an artist in that sense.
Yo, if you guys need a ghostwriter, holla out my boy.
But like I would write a lot of songs. But it was really just like I would smoke, I would get high, and I would just like write songs. But it wasn't really conscious. It was more because like I needed an outlet.
What would you write about?
Usually it was something about love. Like it always is for me.
There's a lot of love in it. I think we have a question regarding that. Should we hop into that later, or should we?
We'll hop into that later.
Okay,
that's a big one.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah, so I stopped writing for a little while, and then eventually I kind of transitioned back into it. I started to have respect for my writing again, and my expectations of it changed. I realized I don't need to write in order to create something. It was a form of expression, and I allowed it to be that, and that's what kind of slowly progressed into the first entry of this book. Yeah.
So when you started writing again for this book, was that like the first time you started, or did you start writing?
It was like a slow transition. Yeah.
Okay.
And then this journey honestly was a beautiful journey. Like that time, I know COVID was happening around the world and stuff, but that time was a really beautiful moment, because it's like everything and every day felt beautiful and poetic for me.
Because you were writing poetry.
I was literally writing poetry. I'd literally be like anywhere.
Would you do it during the daytime or nighttime? Like, is there any specific time that you would write?
It didn't matter.
You just wrote.
Yo, like when we were working at that insurance company, there were a lot of times when like you'd finish at 5 p.m. You haven't done shit. All you did was sit on your ass all day. I wouldn't have the energy to write. But then when I was writing this book, I'd be doing like 2 jobs at the same time, be coming home at 3-4 a.m. and I would sit down at 4 a.m. in my room and write. Literally, my back would be aching and my knees are hurting and shit, and I'd be like crammed up just writing. Like I had that mental energy. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Like it didn't matter when, where, who was there. Like nothing mattered. And like I could literally stare at a blank wall and I could find inspiration.
It was just coming out of you.
It was just coming.
Okay. We want to thank Betstamp for sponsoring this video. Betstamp's free app gives you guys the ability to line shop for the most valuable odds on each bet that you place. If you're already on these sportsbooks placing bets, then this is a no-brainer. Take advantage of the Betstamp app, which integrates multiple sportsbooks and gives you guys access to the best prices so you can maximize your profits. The only way to get an edge on online sports betting is by having multiple accounts at different sportsbooks. Sign up for free using our promo code in the description box below. So what inspired the title for the second book? Was it from that first entry, or how did you come with it?
I don't know where I came up with it like the first time. Like the first book, it was a struggle to come up with the title. But this one, like, I think it was a matter of like realizing, no pun intended, that every day there's a new realization. And like I noticed very early on that, you know, your emotions aren't the same every day. And I had trouble like with writing, like after my little 3-4 years where I stopped, where I didn't know which emotion to address. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Oh, I feel you.
Makes
I
sense.
feel you.
That makes sense.
In one day, like you go through so many emotions. And it's like, so which one do I address? You know, do I talk about the good ones in the morning? Do I talk about the depressing ones at night? Which one do I address?
Because it had been a couple years since you really expressed. I feel like a lot of it was jumbled up in your head. In a sense.
It was like a big jumbled moment. And so I started to like think to myself, and I'm like, whenever a realization came to me, that's the moment that I would write it out. It doesn't matter what it was.
And you're like in your late 20s, so like at this age, like even me, even Vino, that's like a word that we've been using quite a lot too. It's actually crazy that you wrote your book on it. But this age, there's just epiphanies and realizations happening
every day,
almost every day at this point, because you know you start realizing a lot of things about life and shit.
Your
and
eyes start opening up.
Your eyes start opening up, and like you just essentially you're maturing, and like you know you see who you are and like how the world works. It makes sense. You think about like all these old people, like they weren't like that when they were younger and shit. They were fucking jumping around doing their thing too, but like it's realizations about life that makes you who you are at the end of the day, right? So that's a big title still. And you'll notice, like, even in speech, like even in the entries, I'll purposely state what I realized today, or the realization today is this. And initially the expectation was never to put out gold every time I wrote, but what's interesting, and I think I told you this yesterday when we spoke, what's interesting is that like now everything I write is gold. And this isn't like an egotistical thing, but it's just like I've cemented this idea that like I'm great at what I do, that like every time I come to an empty page, which some people might find intimidating to get their thoughts out, for me it's like drinking water now.
You're so experienced, you're so seasoned in it that like you know it's good shit.
There's literally a saying that everything you touch turns to gold. It comes to that point, you know.
It's kind of like that.
Did you feel like few of our episodes we've been interviewing different type of people, you know, like visual artists? Before you, we had Mathushan the boxer, like he's been doing boxing for like 10 plus years, right? If you're 18, you already passed the 10-year mark of writing, right? Obviously you had a few years off and shit, but you almost hit the 10-year mark. Have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think you've met that 10,000 hour rule?
I think so.
And
I think one of the reasons is because the physical writing is one thing, but I don't know, it's weird because I also think and process my emotions poetically. My thoughts have turned into like a feeling almost. And one way I can describe it is like a way that I described the last entry that I posted on my site, which was called The Little Park That No One Sees, where I say like, you know that feeling if you're like, there's a little cabin in like the mountains in the woods, and it's like a wooden house with like the rain hitting the windowsill. Like just picture that emotion. My thoughts, it's like a poetic translation of my thoughts. And so even when I'm not writing, I'm still writing in my head. If that makes sense. My
I think
thoughts,
it's just like it's
who you are.
also the type of the way your brain works, and it's just how you are, right? I mean, a lot of people can probably relate for sure.
Absolutely. I've even been able to like just recently, I'm getting better at realizing like the style of writing that I have. Before it was just expression, and I write, you know, sad stuff and positive stuff sometimes too, but I've been able to pinpoint a lot more like my writing style. And looking at history, I read a lot, right? I love reading, obviously. And I've been able to pinpoint it. And that's really beautiful for me because like I haven't been able to pinpoint my style. And it's like a mixture of like different writers from the past, you know? and one is still alive, of course. But
Yeah.
Who are those writers?
one of them is a guy named Franz Kafka,
Yeah.
which some people might know. But his writing is one of the most depressing pieces of work I've ever read in my life. It's extremely depressing.
Give us an example though, because like I don't really read those types of
Yeah.
books and stuff like that. So
I'll give you one example of one book that I read. And mind you, this guy's classified as one of the greatest writers of the 20th century.
Jeez.
wow.
The greatest.
Wow.
And take in, he worked full time till the end of his life, and writing was like on the side.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
And he's classified as one of the greatest writers of the
That's
20th
fucking
century.
crazy. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
huge, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of his novels are unfinished.
Wow.
Like, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. You know
Why
what
is
I
that?
mean?
Why is that?
He didn't finish it.
Okay.
But it still somehow got published.
But it still got published
Yeah.
through, like, obviously the
His
people around him.
family and things like that.
Yeah. And they're classified as one of the greatest stories. But one
Wow.
example is a book called The Trial.
Mhm.
That was the second book of his I read.
Okay.
I've actually read every single thing he's ever published,
Wow.
except like some of his short stories.
Mm-hmm.
But The Trial, I'll tell you guys what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a guy that, to summarize it really quickly, that wakes up one day and realizes that he's like convicted of a crime that he does not know what it is. And throughout the entire book, it's him trying to find out what his conviction is, what he's convicted
It's
of.
like a fictionist story.
It's all fictionist.
Yeah.
And he never finds out. And it's so depressing, but the message behind the story is like the inner workings of society, how we consistently chase this like never ending goal. You know what I mean? Like you consistently go towards something that you cannot achieve. It's that idea.
It's almost like it was set up from the beginning, never to be able to be done or completed
Exactly.
or achieved in a sense.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's that quest to get the answers. And it's a trial. It's like the book's literally called The Trial. So it's him literally going through different lawyers and these loopholes and these things that like do not make sense. So Franz Kafka, there's actually an English word that's named after him. It's called Kafka-esque,
Okay.
which translates
Yeah, I
to
feel like I've heard that before. Yeah.
it translates to like something that has nightmarish qualities.
So he was a dark writer.
He was extremely dark.
Okay.
And there's a story about him as well that like there's one of his closest friends at the time named Max Broad. I think that's how you say his name. He told him like before he passed that like I want you to burn all my writings. And he didn't listen.
And he chose to
publish
it.
And then he comes out as one of the greatest writers of the 20th century.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's insane.
That is crazy. Why do you think he said, I don't want you to publish it?
I really relate to him because it's a feeling of shame. Because a lot of his stories actually are linked to like his father and how he had issues with his father.
Okay.
And he felt like very...
He didn't want that out there.
He didn't want that out there.
Okay.
And a lot of his stories are reflections of his life. That's what writing is, right?
Yeah,
It's literally a reflection of you.
Reflections. Yeah.
Characters in a
Something
story.
that came from inside you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his writings is, if you were to like put it under a little cloud, it's classified as like absurdism. It's like a philosophical idea. You guys know of like existentialism, and you guys
A
know
little
those,
bit about that.
You guys
Yeah,
know like
yeah.
those philosophical like I don't even know what it's called, but those philosophical ideas.
Yeah.
There's one called absurdism.
Okay.
I don't know who started it. But I read a book by, I can't remember his name, he's another philosopher that kind of talked about it, and his writings is really classified as absurdist work. And absurdism just literally means like whatever absurd means, like it's absurd. Like existence is absurd.
It's wild, it's whack, it's crazy. Okay.
So my writings is a mixture of him and another guy. Is a Japanese writer who's alive right now. His name's Haruki Murakami. And he's classified as like a magical realism type writer. So my work is kind of like a depressing absurdist quality. It has like an absurdist quality to it, mixed with like a different take on reality.
Okay.
That's like
something like kind of out there.
Yeah.
Out of this world in a sense. Okay.
There's one story in this book that fits that quality perfectly.
Okay. And let me ask you this, bro. Like I know you said some of the things you've put out there you felt ashamed about.
Yeah.
Do you still feel ashamed at all, or
towards the earlier ones? Yeah, because it's like pure raw emotion. It wasn't filtered, none of that. But a lot of my work now, there's a lot of like very dark stuff in this too, very sad and like suicidal stuff, and I'm not ashamed of that at all.
Okay.
Because that's reality, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of people can relate, and
it happens.
The
And
feedback
you can't be ashamed or hide that. I mean, it happens every day for whatever reasons, right? It's not like you're a bad person that you feel like that, right?
When I was younger, I felt like an outcast with my emotions. But now it's like you realize it doesn't matter the face that people put on.
Yeah, everybody's fucked up in some way, bro.
In their own way.
Yeah.
And like you may not even know.
You
You
have
may
no
never
idea.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You just have you, yourself, and that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And your own thoughts, right?
You asked me what was that story called? And it was actually a different take on a dream that I had. It's actually called a short story.
A short story.
Yeah.
Okay.
A short story.
Jeez. Tell us a little bit about the publishing process,
Right.
like the financial side, and really making that happen, right?
Oh, I would
all
love
the
to talk
rights
about
and
this.
things like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So after the book was written, which took exactly 1 year, I gave myself 1 year to get it published.
Okay.
So I had to edit it, design it. I used Adobe InDesign to design it. I had to find a publisher. I had to create a site. I had to market it. I had to obviously create the cover, fonts, the inner designs, the layouts, the page numbers, you know what I'm saying, the chapter titles, everything.
Is it normally like that for all publishing, or is it like usually it's more commercial? With the commercialized ones, they probably have like different people doing.
Yeah, so
things.
it depends on the route you take. For me, which I think a lot of people can relate to, I didn't really have the finances to get someone to edit it for me or to design it for me, but I had already designed my first book. So like designing, I could do it. Like
how much is like an editor and like a illustrator and shit?
I don't really know, but it's not cheap. I really did brainstorm whether I should get an editor, but I decided against it, not only because of financially, but also because only I know how I want to design this book. This isn't like a fictional book where it's just one story and I need you to find grammatical errors or like character developments. Like I actually was...
The way this was written and the way it came out is how you want it to be.
Exactly.
In a sense. Yeah.
And
Did you proofread it? Like you obviously proofread it.
I read through it, which took me about 9 months.
Wow.
About 6-7 times.
Quite a process.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, I'm not exaggerating. My day every day would be to open up my InDesign and read a month and go through every single entry and make sure it makes sense.
What's InDesign?
It's called Adobe InDesign. It's
Yeah.
kind of like Photoshop or Illustrator. It's an Adobe program and it's specifically designed. It's the #1 platform to use if you want to design books, magazines, brochures, things like that.
Oh, okay.
So it's like
it kind of numbers everything properly and then has a layout.
it's the most powerful tool. You can design it exactly how you need to.
Okay.
And it's perfect for formatting it. So if you want to turn it into PDFs and if you want to turn it into different formats, it's perfect for creating master pages.
So if anybody wanted to create a magazine or like some sort of book, they download InDesign and then they would kind of it's probably has a specific folder type, or like you said, it's a PDF or whatever, and then just say they wanted to publish it, they would go to like a publisher or a printer and they can just send the InDesign file to them.
Okay, I'll break that down.
Can you talk more about like the process, like as well, like how to
absolutely. So the thing with InDesign, same thing with any Adobe program, it's really just complicated. So
It takes some time.
It takes time.
Really
It's like anything,
you learn about all the tools.
There's probably like YouTube tutorials and stuff how to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But to be honest, even creating page numbers, you won't believe how difficult it is.
Wow.
Like that, eh?
Just
Wow.
page numbers.
Wow.
And then like obviously there's certain things like you'll notice in this book. In the introduction, it has like the Roman numerals.
Yeah.
But then when you want it to start, you'll realize on the page title there's no
pun
page
intended,
number.
right?
Yeah.
right?
And then it goes into the numbers.
And then even here there's no page number, but here it starts at 1.
Okay.
But this isn't page 1. There's so many pages before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So the page numbers, like you have to create master pages. So Adobe InDesign itself is not the easiest platform to use. There are easier platforms.
Like what are some
I
of them?
can't remember their names,
Okay.
but they're pretty popular. Like if you search it on Google, like how to design a book, they'll come up. They're free versions.
Okay.
And this one was a paid one?
This was a paid one.
Yeah.
Now,
How much is it?
I believe like an Adobe program for one is at like $45 a month. It's not cheap at all.
Oh, okay.
USD, I think.
Jeez,
Oh, shit.
okay.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? For one program, maybe 20 something USD, something like that. It's been a while since I've
Okay.
checked. I personally chose to use InDesign
Yeah.
just because of its like extensive functionalities to it,
Mm-hmm.
and because that's what I had experience using before. I didn't want to go through a whole new program and
Yeah.
learn it.
Relearn
You had
the whole
already
thing all
learned
over.
a little bit about it. So.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once I did that, it took 9 months to create the book and design it, edit it. Not even the cover. Let's not talk about the cover, but like the interior. Depending on your publisher or printer, like your printing house, wherever you go to, they determine whether like the exact format that they need. It's usually PDF, but what I mean is like the spreadsheet. Like the spreadsheets is normally like 1 page and 1 page, right? So some places want individual pages. They don't want you to send them a spreadsheet. They want an individual page. Do you know what? Does that make sense?
I feel you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So spreadsheet kind of works as an index, no?
kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, thankfully, I didn't have to turn it into individual pages. I could send just the spreadsheet because it makes it more complicated to turn a spreadsheet into an individual page. And then as long as your margins were on point, because I had the experience, my margins were on point.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's trying to publish a book or magazine or whatever, you have to really keep in mind the margins and like the indents on the pages. Like the margin on the inside is different than the margin on the outside.
Yes.
Right? Because of the bind.
Yeah, and each side of the page is also different too.
It's different.
Yeah.
So this side, the left side is the one that's facing the outside. This is the right side.
Exactly.
Right? So my printer had to do 0 edits.
Okay.
I literally sent them the copy. Like this was a great feeling.
Yeah.
I literally sent them the copy first time. They got back to me the next day and said it's ready to print.
They probably saw it and be like, shit, this guy
shit.
did it up, bro.
Yeah.
We don't have to do any work
Is
here.
something you learned from the first time, or
Absolutely.
like okay.
Absolutely. Obviously, I had to relearn because this is like 5-6 years after the fact.
I admire the amount of work you put in and the level of precision you had.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Like,
really cool.
these are things that can easily get overlooked, right?
Exactly.
So you had to really do your research and shit before you get into it, right?
Yeah.
And you also, guys, if those of you guys that are watching, we're actually based out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Somebody who wants to, publish a book, and like, what was some of the processes that you had to go through to like find the printing company or the publishers, and like would you recommend some local like publishers or printers that you personally use?
So I actually have a lot to say about this because I will give a shout out to this one program called Milanote, Milanote. It's a website that I discovered from a random YouTube ad, and it's basically a way to brainstorm an idea but visually. It's not like Microsoft Word. You can just create like, I don't know, tabs or whatever.
Yeah, and put like your just note down
your notes. It's a visual thing, and literally that's what allowed me to create this book, because you guys like can only imagine the amount of steps and layers to this.
Yeah,
finding a publisher and a printer was a huge task. Like there's so many printing companies locally based, so many printing companies online. There's Amazon Kindle, there's Ingram Spark. These are just a few different ones. And I didn't know who to go with. I didn't want to go through the same publisher I initially went through. Well, the quality was not high. Like, the quality was okay. But like the price of them was high. But it's locally based.
You don't find that they had the value for their price.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it was still decent. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a horrible thing, but I wanted like a little bit more of a professional feel to it.
Okay.
And I didn't create an ebook to it because, to be honest, for me, reading is a very personal experience. And like writing, there's pain involved in writing. Like your hand starts to hurt, your body aches depending on how you're writing or where you're writing. I'd be crammed in my car sometimes, like writing on, what do you call it?
The center console.
Center console. It's like awkward positions that like would just hurt your body. And reading a book kind of feels the same way. You know what I mean? Like if you're just holding a book and just,
you might get a neck.
You might get your neck might start hurting. Your hands just start hurting to hold it up. And I feel like in order for the information and knowledge to get transferred from a book to you, there has to be some sort of pain and sacrifice
there's
involved.
sacrifice there for sure.
I'm not a huge fan of ebooks either, to be honest. Like I like all my books, they're all in print. Like I like having the physical copy of it.
I've tried the Amazon Kindle and things. I didn't really like it.
Yeah. Like it makes sense. Like if you're like traveling and shit, like it makes sense to have like an ebook, so you don't have to carry like 100 books. But something about having like all of my books, like I look at it as like a collection too, right? Like it's something that I want to like personally like just like collect, and then like I want to build like a fucking library and shit when I'm older. Just have all my books there, right? So it's like I feel like you don't get that connection with like an ebook, right?
So I knew I didn't want to do that. I wanted something physical. And I remember I found this beautiful post, like someone created a review. I can't remember who it was or what the site was called, but shout out to them because they gave a breakdown of every single publisher that was online, and they really helped me narrow down who I wanted to go with.
Who did you end up using?
I didn't end up going with, this is so ironic, I didn't end up going with any online company. I went with a company that's based in Toronto called Copywell. They're one of Canada's biggest printers.
Okay.
And come to find out, they're actually an accumulative company that took over the initial company I published with.
They acquired them. Okay.
And that company is no longer around. But I looked at some of the examples. I went into their like a huge warehouse in Vaughan, and they gave me sample pages, sample covers, examples of things similar to mine, and like I really fuck with it. It was amazing.
And you said like you saw a YouTube video that showed you all of these options.
It was like a blog post.
It was a blog
Like a
post.
blog post,
I think
yeah.
maybe if you can find that,
Yeah.
maybe we'll leave it.
Yeah,
in
if
the
you can send us that
description.
blog post, we can just put it down.
I'm sure some of the viewers probably
Yeah.
might find that useful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You guys have no idea how useful it was.
Yeah.
Like it literally like took a mountain of work for me
Yeah.
and then like narrowed it down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to that.
That's
person.
amazing.
Shout out to that. And if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe as well. We got a lot of other cool new guests that are on the show. But as of right now, if you guys like this episode, make sure you guys like it and share it to your friend who's looking to actually, start writing some shit, right? Because like, we're gonna drop.
It's not that serious, man.
Yeah.
It's not, it actually is that serious, but after you watch this video, it's not going to be that serious because our goal here is to make sure that if you want to be a writer, we're going to give you all the information you need to know about getting into that in Toronto right here in this episode. So make sure you guys like it and share it to that person.
Yes, sir.
And you guys know, like this city, there's not always the greatest resources to do certain things. You know what I mean? And so the fact that I was able to find Copywell and they did a phenomenal job in my opinion. Obviously, there's things they could have done better. But that's just because I'm a perfectionist.
Exactly.
And-
I pointed out a couple of little things here.
Yeah.
But we're both perfectionists in a sense. But they did a really good job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
right?
For what I got, to be honest, and the pricing wasn't that far off from what I was getting from these online companies as well.
What is the price? How much does it cost to print a book?
So it all depends on the size, the length, the type of paper you use. There's a lot of factors that go into the price. Also the number of copies you want to print.
So on average, for like an average book, like how much do you think it'll cost to actually like print it?
I think it costs between, again, the factors. Like
There's so many factors.
There's
Hard
so
to
many,
say it.
but I would say like the cheapest you can kind of get it would be about $5-6 a book.
The
cheapest.
And remember, guys, when you guys are paying for these books, like, okay, now that you know that it's $5-6 or whatever, or $5, $6, $7, maybe even $10 to print.
Yeah.
And if you bought the book for like $25 or like $30 or $40, you can't look at it in a way like, hey, this guy paid only $5, $6. You have to think about all the time and energy and what he poured into the book. That's what you're paying for. To print it, it's going to be cheaper. But like, there's no amount of money that you can put on what's in those pages. Right?
One person can read it and be like, this is worth so much to me, right?
Exactly.
Or priceless or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
That's just cost of business.
I will say this. I'll tell you like the listeners and viewers some examples. So the type of paper that's used, this one's called groundwood, and it's like
it feels really nice.
Yeah. So feel that page. It kind of
it's actually a thicker material.
It's a thicker book. The actual cost of this, I can't remember the cost of the paper, but it was cheaper than using like white paper.
Wow.
Which I preferred because I didn't want you to read a white book. How many times you guys ever read a book and it's
I
white?
prefer this better. It has more life to it.
It has more of that story feel to it. Yeah.
And you know, one of my favorite things about the print was like the ink on the paper. You know what I mean? Like the actual letters from afar, it looks perfect. But if you take it real close to your face, you'll notice very tiny imperfections because it's ink on paper.
That's a vibe.
That right there, like just like makes me feel a type of way.
Exactly. It goes to show you that like nothing in life is perfect.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
You realize that it's not perfect.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. It's all about realization.
Exactly. Just say it's like some kid or some person who wants to start writing. What are some top things that you want to list out here that can set somebody up so they can get their writing out, published, and on print?
I think there's so many things. I think the first part of that is like do the actual writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that's difficult. It's not a routine or a habit. It's really interesting. It's like a mindset. This is my so-called routine. It's not I get up in the mornings and I write a page, or before I go to bed I write a page. For me, it's like when the feeling comes to me, I have to get it out. And it doesn't matter where I'm at. But that's the thing. There's a really famous female American poet, I can't remember her name, where she said like once the gods of poetry give you that feeling, you can't ignore it.
It's your infinite intelligence.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
And so it doesn't matter where you are. Like there have been times, and I don't suggest this to people, there have been times where I've been in traffic and I'm literally writing on a piece of paper.
Bars.
There have been times where you shouldn't, but like I'm writing on my phone as I'm driving, because like it might be somewhere where I can't pull over or I really have to get to somewhere, but that feeling comes to me. Once that feeling comes to you, like like in unexpected places, I've had to get that word, that sentence, that page out.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that like anybody who's starting off is like pay attention to that. Don't ignore it. If it comes to you, don't just be like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, don't just be like, you know what? When I get back home, I'm gonna write
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
in that moment,
it's like a dream. It's like a dream.
Yeah,
it's like a dream. You know, the faster you write it down, the quicker you'll fucking.
It's kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Obviously, do the actual writing, right? But I think once you do the writing, it all depends on the vision that you have. That's really important. I wrote like a lot of shit in between these two books, and it never was a part of a vision. It was just random pieces of writing, and the vision just came to me randomly. You know, it's not like I sat down and I'm like, I gotta think of a next book idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't leave this room till an idea comes to me. It just comes to you, right? But that's what happens when you submerge yourself into an idea.
And you also had to surrender.
Absolutely.
You had to surrender to that idea so that you become the vessel, so that it flows through
the
you.
infinite intelligence kind of flows through
you.
Definitely.
And then and then you just had to be ready to write.
You gotta put it on to
when it comes to you, you just had to be ready to pour it out there. Yeah.
I think it's like you don't want to stress and put a timeline on it, right? I think it's better if it's. I mean, I'm not a writer, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's better if it's like, you let it come as it goes. You don't have a timeline on it, and when it comes to you, you write.
Definitely.
When you know it's ready to, when it's finished, you know it's finished.
I would even say that's also like, that's also in the sense that like, I don't think that actually applies to all types of writing.
That's true too.
Right? Like if you're like writing like a fucking like business or finance book, I don't think it's gonna be like that. But I think like
for his style,
stuff like creative writing or like just poetry and stuff like that. Like it has. I feel like it has to be in the moment. You know,
it has to. Yeah. There's also a big part that's self-doubt. And I know a lot of young and new writers, they're filled with self-doubt. And I know self-doubt is something that everybody feels no matter what they're doing. It's not a creative thing. It's everybody.
Exactly.
But like relating back to this, there's a level of self-doubt that you really have to like overcome.
That will almost always come. And,
absolutely.
And you got to overcome it, right? If you want it to be seen, if you want it to be heard, you got to overcome that and put it out, right? Definitely. It's like, for example, some people might relate to this more like, you take a picture and you're like, I want to post this picture. I want to share this with my family, my friends, but I don't know, I'm scared. I don't look that great. And that's self-doubt, right? In the same way, when you write that book, when you write that piece of work, that self-doubt might come. But, if you really want to get out there, you gotta post it.
You gotta post it. Yeah. And the crazy part is, it's the imperfections that we don't like initially that people actually fall in love with.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Tell us about some of the feedback you've gotten from this book. Have you gotten any at all? You
sold quite a few books already, no?
I've sold about 40 something.
Wow.
And that's all local,
bro. That's
that's pretty huge, bro.
It's not
like a local writer, like
mostly local. There's a lot of like people from the States
and stuff.
And we'll talk about that like in your marketing strategies like right after. But I think we should like if you want to just go over.
I've gotten some pretty good feedback, and all of it has been pretty positive. One person gave me kind of like a complete breakdown.
Wow.
It was like chapter by chapter.
Okay.
They even selected like my favorite words that I like to use. Wow. It was very in-depth.
They're really paying attention.
This is probably someone that reads a lot of books, and like it was probably really helpful advice.
Big time. Yeah. And their feedback was just amazing, to be honest. And when I was talking to that person, I actually don't care at all. Like I don't care if nobody reads it. I don't care if everybody that read it comes back to me and says, you know what, this was trash. Like, you're a horrible writer. I will thank them. Because to be honest, whether people read it, whether people like it, none of that matters. I will still continue to do this.
Because you're a writer.
That's just what I do. You know what I mean? I know deep down, before I didn't, but I know deep down what I have is a gift, and like I've been blessed with this gift, and I need to keep doing it.
And if anything, you not putting your gift out there, it's you're doing a disservice to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. It's the biggest disservice you could do to the world is not be who you really are.
Exactly. And I feel like there's a lot of people that they have that gift, or there's something that they're passionate about, but they choose to keep it to themselves because they're like, hey, you know what, like I don't want anybody to know about it, right? But like if you come with that mindset, like, if nobody knows that you're a writer, no one's gonna fucking buy your book or read your book. If no one knows you're in HVAC or electrical, no one's gonna fucking use you as your service. Nobody knows because I'm in real estate, no one's gonna like buy a house through me and shit. You have to like be comfortable with letting people know, and like we say, hey, you know what, I don't want to tell anybody stuff because you want to be quote unquote humble, but I think it's actually more egotistical that you think you're that important that people are gonna fucking think that, oh yo, you know what, oh yo, like what are the
people are
like,
even gonna care what you have.
like bro, you should
bro.
you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
yo, you thinking like that, that's the big ego, because
That's
you
the
think
disservice.
exactly,
Yeah,
because
that's
yo
so
bro, there's
interesting.
somebody who can benefit from your work,
Yeah.
and like yo, you don't even know how many people you inspire by you just putting yourself out there, because there's so many other people that resonate with each one. Like if somebody will resonate with me, somebody will resonate with you, somebody will resonate with you, and they literally watch this shit and they're inspired by you. And for you to not do that, you're also like creating a chain effect with like all the other people who think on the same wavelength, right? So by you doing your thing, you're actually like allowing more other people to do their thing as well.
Yep.
To be honest with you guys, like I say this humbly, I'm gonna be world renowned for my writing. I'm gonna go in history as like someone that like broke the odds. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't supposed to be writing, but here I am. You know what I mean?
And I love it because it's like, I know you understand that this is just the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
This is your second book.
Yeah.
You're still learning. You're still
You
growing.
realized it.
Yeah, you realize that, right? Exactly, bro. And like,
Yeah.
like going back to the feedback, like someone can come tell you this and that about your work, but don't let that break you down, man. Like take that as positive criticism and grow, because at any point in life there's still so much more room to grow.
Absolutely.
Right? And so much room to get better.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you know that, which is why you don't care what anybody has to say. You know where you are, you know where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
When I was at work the other day, like one of my customers, this couple, they were like asking me, oh, like, are you in school? Like, what do you do? People think I'm like 23 or something. They're like, oh yeah, like, what do you do? Are you in school? And I like told them, like, I have, like, no, like I do this job because I'm trying to fund my writing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's like glitch in the matrix, right?
Yeah.
What? You're not an engineer, right?
You're not.
What? You're not trying to climb up the corporate ladder?
So what do you actually do, right?
What do you really do?
No, you're lying.
But yeah, I literally told them, and I was like, this is what I'm doing for life.
Yeah.
It like I'm taking this to my grave. Like doesn't matter how long I live. Like this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it, and like we're gonna get more deeper into this like closer to the end of the podcast. Yeah. You're not relying on your gift or like your talent to be your primary income source. And I think that's like the biggest thing that like a lot of like creatives or creators like have, like, because like I could even personally relate to it, like back in the day when I used to, so those of you guys that don't know, like I used to do car reviews and stuff, and like I was like serious about that shit, you know.
Right.
I'll take time out of my day, I'll edit it, fucking like find these people and shit, whatever. Whenever you do these things like writing or like any sort of creative stuff, you're not going to see results right away. Even if you start a business, more than likely you're not going to see results right away, especially from a monetary standpoint. And I feel like at the beginning, if you try to make money off your stuff, like yo, if you were writing to make money off your book, you're gonna be a shit writer.
Absolutely.
Right? Because like it's not gonna be genuine. Like right now he's just like a vessel. Like, you know, he gets the idea and he writes it down and he's putting it out there. He's not expecting to make X amount of sales and X amount, you know, it's not really like that. It's not necessarily a business.
So for someone that is looking to publish a book, is it possible to like self-publish, or like do you have to go through a publisher? Like how does all that work?
I mean, I self-published.
Okay.
So going through a publisher is actually side fact.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on submitting my book to actual publishers. Specifically, the first one that comes to mind, I can't remember what they're called. I'll have to look it up on my phone.
Yeah.
But it's the same one that Rupi Kaur, same one that she got published through.
Wow.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like those publishers, what ends up happening is the covers and like the designs and the layouts and stuff is done by the publisher.
They get to choose all that.
They choose all that. And I'm pretty sure obviously like the writer has
You have a
input as
little bit
well.
of input on there. Yeah.
And I think it depends on the contract you sign with them, how much input you have and stuff. But also they do mass production.
Okay.
Right?
And when did you decide to say, you know what, let me try to see if I can get it now?
That was my initial goal. But to be honest, I one of the reasons why I wanted a lot of people to purchase through the site and not give me, let's say, cash is because I want a track record of the sales. Because the publishers will look into that.
They want to see that. They want to see how many people are ordering and
Absolutely.
how many.
And I can't just be like, oh yeah, they paid me cash. It's like it's on paper. Like they want to see.
Yeah, they want to see the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like going to Dragon's Den and you got to show your numbers.
You got to show your numbers.
Yeah.
And like they look at follower counts and engagement and activities. If I tell you guys the route, not the routine, but the necessary steps to go through a publisher, it's insane.
Wow.
What are they? What are the steps?
Bro, they literally want you to sell them the book, which obviously makes sense, but it's like they want you to have all the answers. who's your market? Who's your reader? Why? Why should we, out of everybody else, publish your book?
I mean, it makes sense.
Which makes
'cause
sense,
it's
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, they're investing in your book. Yeah,
They're not trying to lose money.
Yeah,
right?
The business.
Yeah,
At the end of
it's
the
the name
day,
of the
right?
game, right?
Yeah. What else? What else were some of the things you look for?
Those were some of the things they want, like all your social media information, your engagements. They want numbers, like detailed numbers. And this is before this is like the proposal. You're just sending them the file. And so you really got to sell yourself on it. And it's not that anything they're asking is absurd. All of it makes sense.
Yes.
It's just the amount of work that goes into it to literally 95% of the time be rejected.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But would you say going through that process to be able to be published by them is worth it?
I think that you should, like, for writers out there, you got to be really honest with yourself in terms of where you're at with it. To be honest, I don't think I'm 100% there.
What are some pros and cons of using a publisher versus being self-published?
The only con is your rejection. It's just a lot of rejection.
So what's the pro?
Everything.
Okay, what's everything?
Everything is...
It's like they have their own marketing avenues and they have their own audiences that already look at all the books that they release and they might buy just because they released them.
Absolutely.
Right?
They I mean,
they have contracts or
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Like
schools
what
or
do these
whatever.
publishers bring to the table? Like what kind of marketing? Like what is their marketing?
well, their marketing, they have connections with the biggest book companies in the world, in Canada being Indigo. Right?
So they can essentially get your book in the Indigo.
Yeah, but you see, I could actually get my book in Indigo right now. That's actually one of my steps
Okay.
under co-assignment.
Yes.
But the problem is shelf space.
Mm.
They're gonna tuck you away in a little corner,
yeah.
right? Whereas look at the sections that Rupi Kaur's books take up. It's a whole fucking section, bro.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't even
yeah.
miss it, even if you wanted to.
Yes.
It's like so obvious. It's like screaming at you right there.
So
How do you earn that space?
I think it depends on like your popularity and the demand that people have for your work.
I think there's a lot of strategy that probably comes down to
Absolutely.
it, right? It's like maybe it might be smarter to self-publish,
Yeah,
build your market and your
You're hitting the
audience
nail on the
and your
spot, bro.
fans
Yeah.
before you go to them, because then when you go to them with a lot to show, you have more power, right?
And sorry to
Go for
add
it,
to
yeah.
add to that,
Yeah.
you're literally hitting the nail on the coffin,
Yeah,
bro. Because
yeah.
that's literally it right there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my strategy,
Okay.
which is to create a market by myself through social media and my own avenues. So when I go to these guys and I present them something, I have a track record to show them.
Okay, so that kind of leads right into my question. What
Yeah.
are some of the marketing strategies you're currently using right now to get your book out there? Because, 40 books. Okay, to the average person listening to right now, you're like, oh, he only sold 40 books. You guys are skewed by the numbers. 40, imagine 40 mans in your room. You're probably watching this fucking podcast in your room or something. Imagine 40 people standing in your room. Imagine 40 people wanting to spend their money that they worked hard for
That's
to purchase
huge.
your book.
Yeah.
40 mans, and you're like self-published. You're not like on like fucking Indigo. You're not on like TV. You're not on the computer. What are your marketing strategies? How'd you get 40 people to buy your stuff like that?
Well, I think one thing that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to be that person that's on social media saying, "Hey guys, buy my book."
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I've actually never seen you say buy my book.
Initially, I would try to post it in a different way, but I really refrained from it. My strategy was really like, I don't want to tell you to buy it. I want you to feel like you need to buy it. You know what I mean? And the way I tried to do that is by like trying to portray a feeling to you guys.
You'll post certain entries on your IG story,
Absolutely.
things like that,
And like certain music choices that I would put that would line up with like
The aesthetic
the aesthetic,
of
right?
the book, yeah.
Of the book and me as a writer. I tried to use like subliminal stuff. It's not really subliminal, but it's like subconscious stuff. So people will have a desire. I'm not doing it just for a number. I don't want you to buy it just so my numbers can go up. I want you to actually buy it and read it.
because you connect with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you start doing those shorter posts now too.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of draws in people. Like that's kind of like a similar strategy that we use for the podcast. Like we would, like I mentioned, like we would use like these like shorter clips of like the gems that our guests would say, and we'll post it out there, right? And that's supposed to draw in people to watch the full episode, right? So I think you're kind of doing that with like teasing them with like new, similar style of writing and pictures and stuff that you kind of post on your Instagram, and I think you do on your Twitter too. Do you?
Yeah. On my Twitter, it's a little bit different because like the audience and the engagements is a little bit different in the way it works on Twitter.
Yeah.
But with Twitter, it's more about me as a brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you buy my book, you're also buying into me as a writer and as a creative person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my thoughts and my day-to-day, my opinions and things like that. And I want people to buy into me as a person as well.
Yeah.
And there's just so many plans that I have for this to grow. You know, obviously you got to pat yourself on the back.
For sure.
For like
every step of the way.
Yeah, like I self-published the book, right?
Exactly.
You gotta pat yourself, but
Yeah.
there's
That's
so
huge.
much more, and I already know what the next book is gonna be, and like the style is gonna be, and it's just a matter of time. And on my site, I had steps to it. The first step was I wanted to create a site where people can buy my book. I've always dreamed of having
What is that
something
site?
like that.
What is that site?
kaswitlove.com, KAS with love. Once I did that, I wanted a place that people can go and read my writing. I didn't want it just to be like a highlights on my Instagram, or they had to go through my media on Twitter and like go through the bullshit to find like an entry. You know what I mean? Like I still almost write every day to this day. And it's
part of your life.
It's part of my life.
You know why? Because you're a writer.
Absolutely. But you know, like in terms of identity, like we were talking about identity earlier, writing is one thing that I do, but like I can't give in to the societal standard that like you can only be one thing.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm a writer. That's my passion. That's what I feel in my soul. But that's not the only thing I can do in life.
You're multifaceted.
Yeah.
And
Like multi-dimensional.
And that just kind of goes back to like what I was kind of mentioning before. You know, we took a little break there. You don't want to try to make money off your art. Or you don't want to try to make money off your creative thing, right? So knowing that a lot of the guys that like I know right now that are either making music or writing or doing visual arts, whatever the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing boxing, like all these guys, they still have a day job.
Yeah.
Right? So I think like the smartest thing to do is like, okay, you know what? You still need that day job, especially at the beginning. We're all startups here at the end of the day, right? When you have that day job, it makes the most sense to learn a high income skill.
Definitely.
So that at the same time that you're putting in to do the work anyways, if you're going to go work a 9 to 5, or if you're going to go fucking drive Uber or do whatever the fuck you want to do, you got to make sure you have a high income skill. So that time that you're dedicating towards making your money, you have more money, you can live a good life right now, and you can also have more capital to reinvest into your craft. What is that thing that you're doing? So like obviously like you're not making money off your book.
No, but like the thing is authenticity is so important. You know, one thing that like when I was like the middle time of when I was writing, like one thing I hated the most, and I don't like using the word hate, one thing I disliked was seeing people that would put out poetry just for the sake of it, or people that would write just for the sake of it.
Okay. What did you dislike about
What I disliked was that like it wasn't genuine. You know what I mean? It was like people were just trying to sell an aesthetic.
Yeah.
You know, and like obviously aesthetics are important, right? But like that can't be the sole reason you're doing it.
You never know though, right? Because to them that might be what they really want to do.
Maybe for them the aesthetic is more important than the poetry.
True. And I know my opinions can be biased sometimes too.
Yeah.
People can disagree as well.
You're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's just the way I felt about it, because like for me it came like so deep down, like it bubbled up.
Yeah.
It wasn't a choice. I just felt differently about it, and I felt different from other writers as well. But now I notice like we're all the same actually.
Yeah, I think maybe you felt like you were more passionate about it. Maybe more, more energy was coming into that, and you know, everybody has different levels of passion, different levels of energy they put into their writing, right? I think for you, it's a big part of your life. You're very passionate about it. So when you see other people that are maybe putting stuff out, but you know they're not even really that serious about it or not passionate about it, you're probably like, what is that, right?
Yeah,
but
I felt the type of way. I guess I took it personal.
Exactly. You took it personal, there, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, they're still expressing themselves.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I know I haven't touched a little bit about marketing, right? So tell us a little bit about like distribution. There's two ends to it, right? There's obviously when you're self-publishing, the way you're going to distribute things, and when you work with the publisher and get signed, and how they end up distributing it out for you, right? How does those two side of things work?
Well, I can speak more on the self-publishing side because I've never been published, so I can only speculate based on my research and the information I have on it. But on the self-publishing side, the distribution, there's a few ways you could go about it. You could do it very local, and I try to do both, and I'll tell you the both. So one of them is local. So my book is actually like in 2 stores downtown.
Yes.
They're not strictly book related. It's like an artistic place. So the first place is called Sonic Boom. It's apparently Canada's largest record store. So they sell records. One day randomly I was looking for like a record player, like a vintage record player. Yeah. And I noticed it's like a huge store too, like huge.
Okay.
And I went inside and just browsed. And when you go in the front doors, like there's like a book section. And when I was leaving the store, I saw it and I was like, yo, you know what? Let me just go talk to like the manager and be like, I'm a local writer, so on and so on.
Is there any way I can get my book here?
So they put it on display.
Did it cost you anything?
Absolutely not. They just take a small percentage, a small cut. Consignment.
And what would be the percentage?
For Sonic Boom, I believe it's 25%. I believe.
Yeah.
And the next store was called Alternative Thinking.
Hold on, going back to that, is it 25% of the profits or 25% of the price of the book?
Price of the book.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm guessing that could potentially
chip into your profits, but at the end of the day, you're not trying to profit off the book.
No.
You want to get more exposure, get your stuff out there.
Yeah, I don't want to go into if that chipped into yours, but I'm just letting the viewers know that could potentially chip into your profits.
Absolutely. There's a benefit to it, right?
Yes. The benefit is literally the exposure, because to be honest, I wouldn't be losing money if people bought it through there, but my profits would definitely go down. It's really more just about the exposure.
Okay.
Because to be honest, since I technically have a sole proprietorship business now, as of today, I'm at a loss with all my costs. So really, I'm not here to gain money off of this. It's really just to gain exposure.
Yeah.
Because once the next body of work comes out, the next thing comes out, I want it to be recognized, like, oh shit, I think I've seen this guy before. You know what I mean? It's really that brand. I'm really trying to grow that brand.
Exactly. And I think it's good that you mentioned that, because a lot of people probably feel like they can start ventures and businesses and, you know, start writing books or whatever the case is. And, you know, they might think the money will come sooner than it really does, right? And it takes time. No matter what you're doing, guys, it's gonna take time.
You gotta focus on your brand, and you gotta focus on it as a business. And even if it's like artwork or any sort of creative endeavor, it's still a business at the end of the day, right? If you're trying to make money off it and stuff, like, you got to think of it as a business, and that's a product, right?
Absolutely.
So you got to think about, like, you know, you want to get that reach, you want to make that brand more of a household brand, right? So that, you know, like, so that can generate you more opportunities. But just like how what Kasra did, these opportunities aren't gonna fucking present itself to you.
No, not at all.
Right? And like this goes back to this book. I read this book called Rejection Proof back in the day, and it's pretty much about the story about this guy who, I think he was like an insecure dude or whatever, and then like to break out of that insecurity, he would create like a challenge for himself where like he would actually go to people and ask them ridiculous requests, right? Just so that he can get rejected, right? So that just so that he gets just so that he gets desensitized to the fact of to the idea of rejection. He would go up to random people and ask them like the most fried shit. And the one thing that he realized is that when he started asking people for fried shit, instead of getting rejected, his life started to get actually super exciting.
Yo, that's so interesting. I want to add to that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, right? Like, just give me a sec.
I do know you told me
right?
about
Yeah, I told you about this. So his life started to get like super exciting. Like he started like fucking skydiving and like doing all this fucking ridiculous shit because people are just like, right? So like, it's like
it goes to show you.
It goes to show you, like, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like, obviously, like, you can insert your business or creative endeavor here, but like, in this case of Kasra, he has his book. The fact that he went to this store, he didn't go to the store thinking like, hey, I want to get my book.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
I didn't even know they had a book section.
Exactly. You just went there for something else. But when you go there and you see certain things, you gotta like, even if it's not there, you gotta just go and fucking ask. If you just go and ask, like, hey, can I leave my book here? By any chance? And if they're like, yeah, bro, guess what? You have one other avenue of getting your book or whatever the fuck out there, right? So and you gotta create these opportunities to get your shit out there, right? You gotta live and breathe it pretty much.
And you know what's crazy is that like the rejection is literally majority just ourselves.
Exactly. You're rejecting yourself in your own head.
Yeah.
And why would they ever put my book on the shelf?
Or like, they're obviously going to say no. Yeah. Like I looked at the books on the shelf at Sonic Boom because that was the first store I did it. And like I looked at some of the books. It was big books.
Yeah.
Like big books about big people. And I'm like, wow, where would I fit in this?
Yeah.
Books about basketball. Like where would I fit in that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like it was all in my head. And the thing that like sparked it was I thought about me from 7 years ago when I had my first book. And I remember like people telling me, hey, why don't you go put it in stores? And I'd be like, nobody's going to put it in the store. Nobody's going to put it on their display. Yeah. And I thought about that for a second and I was like, fuck that shit.
And even if you go to a fucking store and they're like, and you're like, hey, can I put my book there? And they're like, nah. Guess what? They said nah.
But here's the reality. They're not going to say no.
I know. But if they do, worst case scenario, they just said fucking no.
Not the end of the world.
Fam, your book wasn't there in the first place.
Facts.
So just fucking try.
Exactly. I think it goes back to a saying that I like to follow by a lot. It's like, your business isn't open if your mouth isn't open.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. That's big. That's big.
Huge. That's something huge, that I would help me a lot.
Yeah. I'm gonna remember that for sure.
Yeah. Because and that just goes back to the whole like being humble and like I don't want to seem cocky and shit. Like, bro, you have to tell people what you're doing. You have to tell people
exactly.
Because like your next biggest check or your next biggest breakthrough it could literally be the guy that's right in front of you that you just think is fucking like. It could be anybody. It can be the guy who's standing in line in the grocery store right behind you and stuff. He could be like the biggest fucking publisher and knows like all these mans.
Exactly.
And just because you asked him, he's like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna give you a fucking shot.
Yeah.
I've had customers at the restaurants I work at buy my book. How do you think they found out?
Exactly. You open your mouth. You said something.
If you're just like, oh, yo, I'm just a waiter and shit.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, okay, cool.
If you were shy or you're ashamed about it, they would have never bought it.
Yeah. I don't write.
And that could lead to something else. And then that could lead to something else. It's all chain reactions, right? So every word you say, everything counts, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me some of the lessons you've learned after now publishing 2 books.
What would you tell that younger Kasra?
I would tell the younger me, who fucking cares what the idea is? Who cares if anyone's gonna buy it, if it's good, if it's bad? Who gives a fuck about all of that? Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Doesn't matter what age you are, where you're at in it. If you feel like doing it, just do it.
And I also feel like it by publishing your work, it creates legacy, And it might not happen while you're alive. It might happen like way after. Like a lot of the biggest, which is fine. Yeah. A lot of the biggest names that we know out here were fucking nobody when they were alive. The second they passed and as time went by, somehow, every action has a equal and opposite reaction.
Absolutely.
Somehow something happened, and now your shit's out there. That's legacy. That's beyond you.
And some people, like in history, I feel like some people are selected. I don't know what the selection process is like in the universe, but some people are selected to do this one thing, whatever it is. And like, you just have to do it. And like, you have to drop your work, your name into this cauldron of people from history and be a part of it. Recognize that you are a part of that.
It's almost like you've been chosen.
Yeah.
Right? And you gotta do your part. You have to do your part, right? And in whatever niche or venture that is, right?
Yeah. And you have to remember that certain things are beyond you. It's not even you. It's beyond you.
Definitely.
It's always beyond you.
It's beyond you. Yeah. And that's I think that's where true humility comes from. Because like your wins and losses, you can identify with that. Okay, whatever, like you can use it to create momentum and shit. But those wins and losses that happen in life through whatever endeavor you're doing, if you can just like redirect it and be like, hey, you know what? This win or loss wasn't me. This was either God or the creator or the universe or whatever the fuck you want to identify with. If you can think beyond yourself, then you don't give a fuck about what anybody else thinks, because it's not you. You're just a vessel. You're just you're a tool.
It's bigger than you.
Definitely. Exactly. If everybody disappeared on this planet and like I was the last one left, I would still write.
Jeez.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's bigger than you.
It is.
I like that. I know we touched upon it a little bit. So tell us like how you chose between like ebook, hardcover, and softcover.
I didn't want to do ebook because I wanted a physical feel, and choosing between softcover and hardcover was pretty easy because for me a book, and like if you notice on this one, like the edges are kind of like coming off.
Yes.
And, like it's bent in certain places.
It's a book.
You know what I mean? And like I feel like every time I buy a book, I have to like break it in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have to bend it and kind of like give it its character and personality.
Yes.
That's so weird how you mentioned that, because like even when I buy books, okay, obviously like it's cheaper too, but even when I buy books, I prefer to get the soft copy over the fucking hard copy, like a paperback.
Okay.
Because it's just like, when you're reading it, it's just more natural. You can bend it and shit. It's like.
And it's got to form it's like shoes, you know what I mean? How you gotta break in shoes.
It forms to your life.
Exactly.
And your experiences with
That's
it.
right. And like, this book, I carry it with me in my little bag. You guys see my little bag. I carry it with me everywhere I go.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? I don't read it every day. Like I stopped reading it because like I'm reading other books, but I carry it with me everywhere I go.
Why?
So, because it's like a part of me now, you know what I mean? And like at any moment it can be taken out and I can gain inspiration from it. I carry 3 things. I don't know if I've ever told you guys. I carry 3 books in general in my bag.
Okay.
And that's what takes up most of the space. Like I have no room in my bag.
That's
and it's
crazy.
just 3 books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can barely put like a fucking lotion in there. It's just 3 books. And these 3 books, one of them is my like daily agenda.
You chose a book over the moisturized skin. Right?
I still carry that. Don't get me wrong.
It's smaller now.
So I carry my agenda. I carry my journal because the inspiration could come at any moment. And this book.
Okay.
So those are 3 things that could happen at any time and I need it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like this just gets carried around. It gets like bent and corners get like...
It goes through life.
You know what I mean?
Just like we do.
Exactly. And that's important for me. And like if it was a hardcover book, it'd be this rigid thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even the size, I never actually got to touch on this. The size of the book was specifically chosen.
I really like the
Why is
size
that?
of it, bro.
Why
The
is that?
size,
It fits in your
palm.
hand so well.
but
It's almost the size of Think and Grow Rich.
kind
Like-
of, yeah.
Like the smaller copy.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
little bit bigger than that.
Yeah. Like the width-wise too.
Yeah.
But the size, so before I say that, the 3 chapters
Yeah.
were the 3 journals that I finished in order to publish this. And the 3rd journal was almost identical to this in size. And it was my favorite journal I've ever
Wow.
written in.
Okay.
And it was like so beautifully bound. I could show you guys that journal too because I
Let's
have
see
it.
it. Let's see it. Pull
Let's
it out
see
right
it.
now.
Pull
Yeah.
that
Show,
up,
show the
brother.
camera.
The book size was really planned out to
It was
get
inspired from this
inspired
journal.
from this journal.
That's crazy, bro.
And I want you to
It's like a Bible.
Wow, you gave him the exact like dimensions. And shit.
it's a what do you mean?
Like the exact dimensions of
it's-
this, and you gave it to the publisher.
No. I designed it on InDesign
Oh,
with
They
the
used a
size
white
in
paper
mind.
on this though, you know?
Yeah, but that's a journal, right?
Yeah.
But can I show you guys the
That's a
binding
gangster
on this?
journal, yeah.
Yo, the binding on this is actually beautiful.
Wow.
So look at the binding here. You'll notice how it has that.
Show the camera. Show the camera.
stitching
So
and
hold
all
it
that.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys, I hope you guys can see that.
Like the stitching isn't like a design.
Exactly.
Wow.
But the thing is, the stitching is actually determined here. You notice how there's 5?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
That little star pattern.
Yeah.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 5 sections in this. You'll notice.
Okay.
That's one section,
Oh wow.
Okay.
right? And you'll notice on the back here how it's stitched.
Mm.
It's all connected. It's very like almost hand put together. I don't know if it was designed by a machine or not,
Mm-hmm.
but it just felt. It's like the most beautiful thing I've ever written.
Where did you buy this?
Indigo.
One? Indigo.
25
right?
bucks.
Wow, this is really nice, bro.
Yeah. And so the way that it felt for me to write in this is what I wanted to mimic how it feels to hold this and read it.
Okay. Did you try to get the actual stitching to be like this at all, or
I didn't, but
it probably would have been a little expensive? Probably,
yeah, and
right?
it's unrealistic to mass produce something that's like this unless you are fucking Indigo.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I don't know how they made this. I don't know how many copies of this they made. Like I have no idea about that information.
Yeah, you can see here it's actually Indigo's product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have been quite unrealistic, I felt, and I'm pretty sure it would have been unrealistic.
Yeah.
To mass produce this type of handwork on a book that like.
But I'm sure down
it's possible.
the road,
Absolutely.
you would want to be able to do
Yeah.
things like this.
Absolutely.
Mm.
On my site,
Yeah.
obviously there's going to be further books and further pieces of writing, but there's going to be further products as well, like
Mhm.
merch almost.
Okay.
But-
we talked about this in person before.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, bro. Like
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're not scared to make it about the financial gain.
No, not at all.
And you want to build this brand.
It's not even necessarily financial gain too, because merch
Yeah.
is also like a method of like marketing too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't want to create anything that I wouldn't use and read myself.
Mm.
Yo, to be honest, this book was written because I want to read it.
Mhm.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
For people that create any product, whether it's a painting
Mhm.
or a business they want to start,
Mhm.
if you're not going to be a user of that product, there's no point making it.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm not going to, I shouldn't, no one should ever write a book that they wouldn't actually sit down in their room by themselves and read.
Mhm. I think that's a good first question for anyone creating any type of product, right? Like, would you use this yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And that's also like a rule in sales too, right? Rule number 1 in sales is you have to believe in your product,
Mhm.
right? So like if you don't believe in your own product, it's gonna be you're gonna have a hard time selling that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Why would someone else believe it if you don't? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Right. So if you believe in it, like you don't need to like practice sales skills and like do different marketing techniques and shit. Just the way you have that conviction, like yo, listen, this is the shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you know this is shit, that confidence just rubs off on people, and they're like,
Mhm.
hey, you know what? Like, I want this now. Like,
Yeah.
what does this book have, or what does this item or product have that I don't have in my life right now? Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds obvious, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably people that have put out products and things like that they probably would never use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they really thought about it, maybe they probably wouldn't have put it out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, bro, tell me about the ways that you could monetize your book as an author.
I mapped it out for myself. One of the ways is obviously selling the book.
Yes.
That's the most obvious way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it shouldn't end there.
Yes.
products related to your craft and to your brand is what's very important.
Like your merch, so you said.
Yeah, but merch, to be honest, like, doesn't fully relate. I'll tell you some examples of ideas that I do have.
Yeah.
One of them is I'm going to be creating custom bookmarks, and not for a specific profit margin, more so as a like side product to the actual product, which
It's
is
an
like,
accessory to the main product.
there you go. That's what I was trying to say. Because the custom bookmarks are going to be very elaborate in terms of how it's designed, and it's going to feel good to have. You know what I mean?
It's gonna be like one of those things like when you buy the book, it's gonna come up in like the
Yes.
the checkout. Like, hey,
Yes.
these items are commonly purchased with this book.
Definitely. But to expand, another thing is custom journals. I'm gonna create custom journals
Gangster.
because
Realizations. Call it realizations.
I mean, I don't even know. Like, I haven't mapped it out like that far yet,
Yeah.
but I just know like the item is going to be a custom journal because I know the perfect journal I want to write in, and I want to be able to make that. You know what I mean?
Because you're gonna use it yourself.
I'm gonna use it myself, right?
I'm
And
gonna buy that too.
yeah. And like I know people are gonna want to be able to use that journal. It just goes on and on in
It's
regards.
endless.
It's endless.
in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
And
Okay.
related to the brand and the craft of writing itself. You know what I mean? You guys will like notice at the very end, there's actually a page here. The very, very last page, you guys will see. There's an index, but right after the index, it explains obviously like the credits and stuff, but towards the end, it tells the journals that I use and also the pens I use.
Wow.
So I went through a few different pens, but the main one was this one pen called...
What's a good writing pen?
The pen that I used that I liked the most was one called Signo Uniball Micro 307 0.5 millimeters.
Yeah, Uniball has some sick
Expensive?
pens.
How much is it?
It wasn't too expensive. I got it on Amazon. I got it as like a package.
Okay.
It wasn't too expensive. It's very affordable.
And when you bought it, did you know like how the pen would feel, or did you just try it randomly?
I saw reviews online and stuff.
Okay.
And I chose it through that.
Nice.
And it has pros and cons for me. Like there's things I like about it, things I don't like about it. But I'm still going through like different pens
Yeah,
to
you're
see.
still
Yeah,
trying. There's
absolutely.
billions of pens probably, right? So.
But I want to design pens as well. Yeah.
Very interesting.
And like the perfect pen.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so like you said, it's endless.
That's
And
crazy.
Yeah.
That's gangster.
That's actually amazing. And I like how you brought that up because I'm sure it's going to open up a whole world to people. It's like, oh, I could do that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's not just like he's not just selling the book; he's selling the idea of writing too.
And it's that whole
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That's the vibe.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. You know.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's people like me out there.
Yeah.
I've contacted them. I've seen them. They've contacted me. I know that some people that bought the book, they're readers. You know what I mean? Like not everybody that buys a painting or something is like a painter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just appreciate the art.
You appreciate the art. But there are people that are actual writers themselves too. They do the writing themselves. And I want to be able to like share that type of experience. You know what I mean?
You want to be a part of that writer's life
process. Yeah. Like for other writers too.
It's just a mission.
Because to be honest, like just me pursuing what I'm doing, even if people don't like my writing, will inspire others to do what they want to do. And you know what? Maybe they're not even fucking writers. They do the most opposite thing from what I'm doing. But just because I'm pursuing what I'm doing authentically and genuinely, it will inspire them to do what they want.
Yes.
And that's all that matters, you know?
This might even make mans want to start writing.
So you talked a little bit about different ways you can monetize and different products you can get into and things like that. Tell us a little bit about if you were to publish it through a publisher and how that works and like, you know, negotiating contracts like that. Do you know about that or?
I don't know too much, but I can just speculate and imagine.
Yeah.
I did read a lot about J.K. Rowling, her journey with both publishing the Harry Potter series, but also the movies as well. What was interesting is that like in both cases, she had almost complete creative freedom. Which is very interesting. You don't find a lot of artists like that or a lot of like creative people.
Usually when like a third party joins in, you gotta kind of mend your rules according to whatever they say and stuff too, right?
That's right. And when she turned the Harry Potter franchise into a movie, she had complete control on the actors that were chosen. I don't think you guys are too much into Harry Potter, right?
No, I'm not.
I actually used to read Harry Potter books.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are certain characters that like I remember seeing on screen and like I couldn't believe how similar to the book it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
the book was very in detail.
Extremely.
Yeah.
But then like to be able to bring that into like a visual thing is difficult to have that image in your mind of a character and how they look like to
and
translate
match out like
and
that.
match it.
Yeah.
But it matched perfectly. And to be honest, like I think it also depends on what you bring to the table and what your vision is. Like I think I've read a lot in regards to people and writers that are big time I can't really give names because I don't know, but that are like actual big writers in the industry, and like they don't even map out their own stories. They're editors, and like the people that they're working with are the ones that say, hey, like I think this story will be a great story to write about, and they write it. But it depends on the type of writer. I think like I don't need the person to tell me the story to put out. I feel like if I have that vision, then the person I'm going to be working with and the company I end up signing with will give me that creative freedom.
I think it goes back to like how much power you have going into the deal,
Right.
and how you're able to negotiate.
You got to go with that confidence.
Yeah,
too,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
If you bring
Okay.
nothing to the table, then they're going to be like, listen, like maybe it's a great story, but like you don't have the vision that is going to take this.
They're gonna take the power over you and be like,
Yeah.
listen, you're nobody.
Yeah.
We're gonna make you somebody.
Yeah.
And make a deal that probably
make
isn't
us
the
one.
best for you.
So you're gonna change a few things in
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because if you're lacking that, somebody has to be a leader in the situation, right?
Exactly.
And you know, like eventually I know I have to hire editors and hire people that will work with me, both as like finding actual publishers and progressing my brand as a writer, right? I can't do this by myself always.
Forever.
You know what I mean? This took way too much energy out of me.
Yes.
And for people out there, like it's not an easy process.
There's probably a way more efficient way to do it.
And the beauty about it is that he's not even like waiting for the book to make like X amount of sales so he can have the money. 'Cause like I said, like he's doing his own thing on
It's
the
a learning
side.
process.
So once he makes a high income, he can just reinvest that income back into the next book. The next book will be a lot more make a lot more sense, right? And when you have that high income skill and you're making that high income, you have more money that you can deploy, and like whatever your goals and dreams and aspirations are, you can actually scale it to like a larger point and actually have quality work coming out there without having to be like, oh, I can't wait to get monetize this, and you know.
And as I said, I already know what my next book is going to be. It's going to be a novel, a fictional story.
Okay.
One story.
Okay.
It's not going to be poetry. I don't know like whether there'll be poetic parts to it, but it's going to be a fictional story.
It's crazy because it's very different from what you do now.
Definitely.
Right? Okay.
Definitely.
And when did you decide you wanted to go that route?
Because for the longest time I've been writing short stories aside from poetry and stuff. And I want to grow it, and I'm focusing it consciously right now to like daily writing short stories, and it's very nerve-wracking to write a story.
Why is that? Why do you think it's nerve-wracking?
It's nerve-wracking because it's such direct and indirect projections of your own thoughts and your insecurities that like you may not even realize. I read back on certain short stories, and like it like blows me away at like how much of me is in this story that's fictional.
Crazy.
And like I wonder if people will pick that up, but it's not even about whether they will or not. It's more just about how much you're putting into it.
And do you love what you've put out?
Absolutely. Like I actually love my short stories. They give me goosebumps.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's amazing.
A lot of my work, like these ones that you'll see here that I've like kind of checked off.
Yeah.
You know what's the criteria I use like to put a little sticky note on there? Whether it gives me goosebumps or not.
Jeez, there's a lot of goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
Yeah. And because like I don't know. That says a lot. Like you don't choose to have goosebumps. It's a feeling that comes to you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And a lot of my stories, they feel like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on my site, like I'm posting some of those stories on there. So definitely you guys or anybody listening, like check out those stories on my site, kaswitlove.com. Because like
We'll put a link down below for
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys listening or watching.
Yeah, because it's something that I really want to continue to grow. And obviously, as a writer and anybody doing any craft, there's aspects of you that you got to improve on. And stories is one thing I'm trying to improve on.
For sure.
Poetry for me right now, it's like drinking water. Like it's just, it's like it's
dripping.
It's so
comes
fluent.
out. Yeah. And it's good to see that you're trying new things and getting better and growing, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about where Kas with Love came from, which is your author name.
There's a lot of love in your names. Like what is it? What is the significance of love to you? What does love mean to you?
Love for me is like the purpose of our existence. I think from very, very early on, before I even recognized myself as a writer, I realized how important love was in my life.
What kind of love are you talking about? Like love from your parents, love from like a girl,
everything and anything.
I think love,
just love in general,
true core as a feeling and an emotion. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm going to give an example here that really solidifies it in one aspect for me, what love is. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Interstellar.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's my absolute favorite movie.
Wow.
But there's one reason why. It's because there's no force in the universe that could move faster than the speed of light. Nothing in the universe.
It's still not discovered to this day.
Yeah. Like whatever dark matter and dark energy is, that's a whole other conversation. We just don't know yet. But for now, we don't know anything that moves faster than light.
Yes.
And in quantum physics and quantum mechanics, there's like certain particles that will move in a certain way that defies the laws of physics, which is why it's such a hard concept for a lot of people to understand and grasp. But whoever that female actor is in that movie, she says one thing, that love transcends space and time.
Wow.
How can I be attracted to someone that's galaxies away and I will travel to the ends of the universe for someone I love? Nothing is stronger than that force.
Love can like change your whole life. Love can like throw you off course if you're like a focus. Like love can just take over, you know? Like love is a very powerful force. If anything, it's one of the most powerful forces.
It is.
Like even like a mother, if you really think about the love that a mother has for their child, like a mother, like honestly, if their newborn baby is like in a burning building, a mother would fucking run through the burning building. She won't even care.
Yeah.
You know, a mother risks her life when she's giving birth to a baby.
Exactly.
That's love.
Yeah.
You know? She never even met the baby, and she loves the baby so much.
She has no idea.
And she risks her life to bring that baby into
existence.
So you guys said where that name came from? I realized at some point that
no pun intended, right?
No pun intended. Everything I do should be with love.
Yeah.
And there were so many things that like I would do just out of obligation and responsibility that I wouldn't do with love, and I had to change it. And as a writer, I realized that like I identify as someone that should do everything with love. And that love, it takes more importance over everything. And anything that I do, like it has to be done with it. And that's where the name kind of came to me, and it really connected with the person that I was trying to be. You know, they say like
not even trying, the person that you are,
that person that I am. Facts. Because they say like you shouldn't try to be or try to live a life that's like the person you are. You should do it in regards to the person you want to be. You know what I mean? Like your future self.
Because that's how you get there.
That's how you get there, right?
Okay.
I think about this very consciously still, which is surprising to me because there's so many things. Like today I had to help around the house in regards to like the interlocking around my house. Bro, I've been busy all week doing numerous things from the moment I wake up to the moment I sleep. And today in the morning, like I didn't want to, right? But it was the intention to do something with love. And that's what the universe gives back to you. You know what I mean? And I remember like I would even write out of like obligation, because I used to think that like if I stopped writing, that like I may lose this gift. It may go away. Like, yo, I got to keep writing because like, holy shit.
It's out of desperation. It wasn't like out of
desperation. Love. Exactly. But now like, there are sometimes like weeks where I go without writing. Like I date every single entry in this journal, and there are a lot of times where like you'll notice 2 weeks will go by and I haven't written. Before I would spiral into depression and I would be like, fuck, like I didn't write, I should be writing. What
if I'm not as good anymore?
What if I'm not as good anymore? Now it's like it doesn't matter at all, because every time I come to it, I come with it with love. And
you don't want to come at it with anything else. I love that.
And you know, even if I come to the pages, there's a lot of entries that like I'm very angry.
You're coming to it with love, but you're expressing anger.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Even anger can come from love.
Exactly. Even the sadness, the depression, the pain, whatever it is, it's still a form of love. Everything is a branch from love. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. This is really deep, guys.
So love for me is like the candlestick to which they measured the universe from.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Speaking of candlesticks.
No.
We heard you're a day trader.
Love is a really complex topic for me, and there's a lot to say about it because my life has been shaped and built on love. Everything from my beliefs to my ideas to the person I am to the person I'm becoming, everything is built on this idea of love. And I know it's cheesy, love yourself, love that, like what you see online, but it's
love.
Yeah, it's a very powerful thing.
What does love feel like to you?
For me, it feels like raw, genuine energy. I used to study astronomy a lot, and I know you guys know
a little bit about it.
Yeah,
a little bit.
And there's parallels to the universe and us humans beyond imagination. And
what are those parallels?
One is the sun. It's a star, right? And how it like harnesses hydrogen into helium that allows it to burn to be a star. Love is like that raw energy that allows us to thrive. Without love, we would not exist. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Love is like the purpose of our existence.
Yeah.
And everything else is a branch from love.
I really like that. Like you said it a couple of times, and like I'm really starting to feel that. And it's like love is like at the center, and then everything just grows from love.
Love is the core foundation of even creation.
It
You know,
is.
like two people had to make love for it to create another person.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
This guy's falling in love with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
His wife. What am I saying? His wife.
This guy's
He's gonna go home and be like, baby, I love you.
Like, baby, let's go to fucking cottage, right?
I'm gonna make a baby this weekend. Oh man.
He's gonna come back. Yo, my girlfriend's pregnant.
Bro. Wow. So Kasra, man, like we went through a whole journey just now
Yeah.
talking about your journey as a writer and how you went through your 2 books and publishing and all the challenges that came with that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to shift it up a gear. I want to do a complete 180 because I want to get into the next topic, which is something you started kind of recently.
Yeah.
And I find it so crazy that someone so artistic
Mm-hmm.
and someone so deep can do something so
Analytical.
and just logical and just like square as day trading.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your journey. How you started that. Like,
Mhm.
where did this all start?
I was literally telling my mom this story this morning.
Yeah.
Shout out to your mom.
Shout out to my mom. I've never told you guys this story.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, I think I was in grade 11. So I was like, what, like 17 at the time?
Yeah.
Take in, this is pre-writing. Okay? I had a math class, like I would take like fucking advanced calculus and shit. Like, bro, I was in a school where kids would get like 95 in like advanced calculus. Like, it was a very, very like high, very like advanced. Like, a lot of people were foreign and like, you know how like math.
I think was it the AP program or something like that?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in this math class and I knew no one in that class because none of my friends were taking it. It was like advanced calculus, bro. None of my friends were doing that shit. And I was in the back of the class and there was a guy named Roy. And I haven't spoken to him since high school. And I have no idea what he was doing, but he was a break dancer at the time. The guy would just pull up with his crew in the middle of the like hallway and just break out dances.
That's crazy. I remember that shit from like high
remember
school
that shit,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Like real throwback right now.
That's crazy, bro. Back in the days when like we didn't have phones like controlling our lives
like it
and
wasn't
shit.
like that.
Yeah.
And I remember like this guy, he was sitting at the back too because he wasn't really like the rest of the people in that school. And he was just like, yo, are you into stocks at all? And I was
Grade
like, yo,
11.
like, yeah. And I was like, yo, like, yeah, I've heard of it, but like, I have no idea what this shit is. Like, I don't know. Like, tell me more. And like, yo, he sparked something in me. And years after that, I went through like 3 different programs in college and dropped out, like whole random shit. And then like, I kept going back to stocks. You guys know Investopedia.com or whatever?
No.
It's one of the biggest sites to learn about stocks, terminology, and just everything.
Okay.
And I remember in college, I would go on that website, go through tab by tab and take notes and try to learn. And then like it came to a point where I was like, yo, this is too much.
I'm not capable.
I'm not like, there's just too much information. I don't have the time and energy to like learn all of this. And I put it to the side. But here and there, I would go on Yahoo Finance and I would kind of be interested and just look into it. Mind you guys, in high school, the next year in grade 12, I took like an economy class and they made us paper trade for 1 semester, the entire semester, the stock market.
I've never heard of that in high school.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And I remember like, I can't even remember the programs we used, but like I still had no idea what the hell
high school was this?
It was called A.Y. Jackson. In North York.
I think I've heard of this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take in how A.Y. Jackson is named after the grade 7 artists or whatever they're called. 7 of the biggest Canadian painters in Canadian history.
Okay.
It was named after one of the guys. One of the guys was A.Y. Jackson.
Okay.
In Canada.
In Canada. Is that what I said? I remember doing that and like that always sat in the back of my head at how like interesting it was.
It's crazy how much of a foreshadow that was, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Your whole high school journey. Yeah.
That's amazing.
You know?
Day trading is actually not that much different from writing in the sense that
Never heard that one before.
Yeah, in the sense that
this guy's breaking the fucking mic right now, right?
in the sense that there's still creativity involved because every trader is different and everybody sees these charts differently.
There's a ton of ways to do it.
There's a ton of ways to do it and a ton of ways to see it. And everybody has their own qualities to it. And to be honest, mathematics has never been my strong suit, but I've always been interested by numbers. And
numbers.
Yeah. And for me, somehow, I don't know why, but numbers can tell a story.
Yeah.
I remember how
astrology's numbers too.
Absolutely. And I remember how you guys, I've showed you my spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me how a set of numbers that have no correlation other than just they match up what a chart says can tell you a story.
And can paint a picture.
And so that's what's always fascinated me with it. It's not really about how the market moves and economies and things like that, because like all of that is like a fabrication of human imagination, to be really honest. Like the economy and stuff, right?
Yeah.
For me,
a lot of the things are fabricated.
a lot of it are, right?
Yeah.
It's really
Let's
just
not get into that right now.
yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But it's really about how day trading can tell you a story through numbers. That's what fascinates me about it.
Okay. And I know you had a mentor or you had a friend that was day trading, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him and how he inspired you.
He's one of the most important people in my life for the last few years.
Wow.
Because he gave me the tools that I would need. He didn't show me the way. He didn't tell me what to do or how to do it.
Teaching you how to fish.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't give me a fish. And even to this day, I talk to him on a daily basis. And even to this day, we don't talk about money. He doesn't tell me what to do. He doesn't tell me what trades to take. He doesn't tell me if this is going to be a win or a loss. We literally just talk about generalizations about the art of trading and like what we're looking at and just very general things.
What is the art of trading?
The art of trading is being able to make a story from a set of numbers and being able to create predictions and be able to accurately speculate about a certain trend.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's happened, what's happening, and what's about to happen.
And the thing is that life is really complicated, right? Day trading, it's so complicated that for me, it mirrors the complications of life. And it's hard to figure out life. And that's what also attracts me to day trading because it's like almost endless. There's never a point where you're like, you know what? I figured it out. This is what it is. All right, I'm done.
A lot of things are like that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things.
Most things are like that.
Yeah.
But like with day trading, it's just so obviously complex that it's like it's hard to wrap your mind around it.
I know, and it's crazy because one of the facts I've heard is that 95% of day traders are not profitable. Have you heard that? Is that true, or what do you have to say about that?
I think it's true for the people that don't know how to manage their risk.
But generally, it is a very tough industry to get into and a tough type of way to earn income, right?
To be honest, I'm gonna take these words straight from my mentor's mouth.
Okay.
It's harder than being a surgeon sometimes. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because you're looking at so many factors at the same time that it's crazy that your brain can even compute that many things at the same time. Like that many factors at the same time. And it's split-second decisions. I don't know if I agree or disagree because obviously like a surgeon has your fucking life in their hands. Yeah. But it's just the scope of how difficult it is.
Okay. So
the thing is that in order to be profitable, it's not just profits and losses. In your risk, I know I'm going to get a little bit specific and I'm going to try not to.
Yeah.
In your risk management, you have to not only incorporate the percentage of risk based on your book of business, but you also have to incorporate certain things that are called locate fees and borrow fees. This has to be incorporated into it. If you don't, which I've experienced, you may think you're making a profit, but you're actually not. I mean, obviously I'm playing with a smaller book size, so I'm not playing with an extremely big size. So obviously the risk is small and the reward is small, but it's not really about the size of the money. It's more about the management of risk and your profits and losses, your risk to reward ratio. If you don't incorporate these fees, then you're not making money. You're breaking even at most.
And is this just like the trading fee? Or is there other fees involved, or how does this
There's
work?
commission fees.
Yes.
There's locate/borrow fees.
I've never heard of this term.
Yeah.
Can you kind of
So what it basically means, you have to understand the idea of shorting because it's only on the shorting side.
Okay.
If you're going long or if you're buying a stock based on a bullish trend, there are no locate or borrow fees.
Oh, okay.
Because the idea of shorting, should I go into this real quick?
Yes. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would love to know what is shorting. Everyone's probably heard of the term shorting, but what is it in your words?
So I'll try to explain it the best way I can.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys an example. When you buy a stock, you're essentially buying a share at a set price and you're adding something called liquidity into the market.
Your dollars are now flowing into the pool.
Exactly.
Right?
When you're shorting, let's say a stock is at $1. You're not buying a stock. You're not buying a share. You go to your brokerage, whoever it is, and you borrow set amount of shares. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You're borrowing shares. So let's say it's at $1 and you borrow one share. Okay, it goes down to 50 cents. You go back to the same brokerage.
Just taking a step back, you're borrowing it. Let's just say, for example, you're borrowing 10 shares.
10 shares.
Are you putting anything up to borrow that 10 shares?
You don't pay for it until you cover it. Until you.
So you have to kind of lock up the collateral or whatever.
Let me finish and I think it'll make more sense.
Okay.
So let's just say one share, $1. Okay. Let's just keep it very simple, right? You borrow it from your brokerage. So essentially that's $1. The stock goes down to 50 cents. You go back to your same brokerage. You now buy the share that you borrowed for 50 cents. And that 50 cent difference is what your profit is.
It is pretty hard for me to understand this, and I'm sure it is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you borrowed a share for $1. You own a share now. You're borrowing. You didn't pay for it.
You don't own it.
You borrowed it.
You
have a share of this company.
Yeah.
Now the share price has gone down to 50 cents. It's gone down 50%. And you buy the share now for 50 cents. So you have a share that you borrowed, and now you have a share that you bought.
So basically, the share that you borrowed for $1 is worth $1.
Okay.
So like, imagine somebody gave this to you. You're holding this. It's $1. If I give this to you, I'm giving you $1, right? So when the brokerage gives you one share, it's valued at $1.
Yes.
When you buy the same share back for 50 cents, it's essentially you're pocketing 50 cents.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if that still makes sense.
I feel like you still have to clear it up a bit. It's almost like me and Heaven are probably creating new pathways in our head because we've never, and the people listening,
and I clicked on, they're like, yeah, I want to learn how to publish a book. I'm learning about trading.
So it's okay. We're not in a rush, right? Yeah. You've borrowed a share that was worth $1. Now your broker expects you to
give them back the share
give them back the share.
That's right.
I think that's a key there, right? So your brokerage is like, okay, I expect you to give me back a share whenever. Is it whenever? Is there a timeline or anything?
I don't know if there really is a timeline.
Yeah.
When you're borrowing a share, this is why there's fees involved with shorting.
Okay.
Because you're not adding liquidity to the market. You're not adding any money until you buy it.
Okay.
Right? And the thing is that let's just look at the other example. Let's say you're trying to short a stock. It's at $1 for one share, and the price goes up to $1.50.
Goes the other way.
Right?
Yeah.
So in that case, the brokerage expects $1.50 for the one share that you got. The difference is that like when you're giving the share back, they essentially owe you $1. If the share is $1 and you're borrowing it from them, let's say the stock didn't change, you sell it back, they want $1 for it. Right? So it's almost like saying, I'm gonna take this share from you, it's at $1, and you technically almost have $1 in your pocket. When it goes down to 50 cents, the brokerage only expects half of it back.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The transaction doesn't work like that, but I think if you imagine like the dollar is in your pocket, then that's what changes. Yes. So let's say the dollar goes to $1.50. Right, you only have $1 in your pocket. Now you have to find 50 cents from somewhere else and give them $1.50. So now you're losing 50 cents.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
But then
the other way around,
you have $1 in your pocket, but now the brokerage only wants half of it. So now you have 50 cents in your pocket. You've profited 50 cents.
Okay.
Does that make a little more sense?
Okay. I get it now. Okay. I feel like a lot of this stuff is a lot easier to understand visually for me.
Definitely.
For me at least. For a lot of viewers out there, it's probably hard to understand these complex strategies in a sense. But I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah, I hope it clarified it for some people. I know shorting for me was really complicated.
Yeah.
It's a little complicated to explain.
It just takes some time to understand and learn, right? Yeah.
But I hope I've kind of opened up maybe something a little bit.
At least open something up, right? Definitely for me, I'm definitely starting to grasp it. And I'm personally studying an options course, so that's why me and you have been going through this journey together in a sense, right? Yeah. And I love learning from you, and I'm sure a lot of people do. What made you want to day trade though? Like, when did you decide, like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to learn this.
Yeah,
and I want
like
to do this.
Out of all the other high income skills that are on the market, like what made you want to day trade?
There's a few factors that it like checked off for me. Number one, I'm an introvert / extrovert, but majority of the time I'm an introvert, and I don't really want to deal with people. I don't really want to have to deal with anybody to make my money. I want to be in a room by myself anywhere in the fucking world. I want to be with my laptop in fucking Rio de Janeiro, and it's that freedom that it would give me to be anywhere in the world. And it was also a matter of time. I had a lot of opportunities to get into like the construction industry. You know how like Persians are all like, they're all builders and shit.
Yes.
You know
I feel you. Yeah.
So I had like a lot of connections with that to be able to get into it.
Okay.
Like I could have gotten into the plumbing industry easily. There's a lot of money in the plumbing industry.
Oh yeah.
But to be honest, like the time factor and like the structure of day trading was really attractive to me. And because I already had like that foundational interest already built in me, I don't give a fuck about plumbing, you know what I mean? Because I had like that foundational interest, it was very easy for me to dedicate myself. Bro, I had already dedicated myself to going through tabs on a website and learning it, you know what I mean? Like it was already there before it was there.
Exactly.
You know?
It had already been a part of your life before you even knew it. And really was aware of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just so many things that it checked off of, like time, energy, location.
And it also went back to telling a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So despite it not being connected to writing, it really goes hand in hand. Because when somebody thinks of a day in the life of a day trader, I'm not sure what exactly they imagine, but I would think that like they're in front of a computer for like 7 hours and like your numbers are moving, you know what I mean? Like multiple screens, which is fine. Like that, like I'm getting to that point. But the reality is that like I found this out recently as well. 2 things. Number one, you're not in front of a screen for that long. You're actually in front of a screen for a few hours and you're taking a break for a few hours because the market goes through like a lull phase. And number 2, you're making 80% of your annual income in about 3-4 months. Just let that soak in for a second.
And I think even that itself, it also all depends on the amount of capital you're working with too.
Capital, but also there's certain things you can't control, like the market. Yeah. Like the last 2 weeks have been the slowest weeks of 2022. And I'm in front of a computer every single day, Monday to Friday, if work permits. And I've only made 1 or 2 trades a day. There just isn't anything moving.
No, but like going back to what you're saying you can make 80% of your annual income within 3-4 months. But at the same time, if you had more money to play with and to work with, that all those numbers could change. You can maybe make way more than your annual income within the same amount of time because you had more money to play with.
Yeah, but
following the same risk to reward ratios.
But you see, I'm gonna have to kind of disagree because the thing is like your annual income is based on what? Not based on what you're currently making. Yeah. More so based on your annual projections. Like let's say you could be projecting to make 100 grand this year or next year. Based on the capital you have, based on how big the ratios are, like the bigger rewards versus your risk, that can determine how much your annual income would be. So that's all determined on...
Okay. You're saying it in a completely different way. I was saying more like comparing it to what you were making in your job.
Bro, you're like my job is a joke compared to that.
Yeah, but you're saying it more like you're projecting something. Yeah. But you can actually end up getting to that goal way quicker.
That's the difference there. There's pros and cons. Way quicker, but also to a point where it's inconsistent. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't expect that 12 months of the year you're going to be making 10 grand a month. It won't work like that. You might make 40 grand a month for 3 months and then the rest you may be making 2 grand. So it's a little inconsistent and that doesn't frighten me. Okay. Because as I was talking to my mentor, I was saying like my whole life has been inconsistent. Like nothing new. You know what I mean? Like I've been broke, I had money, been broke, had money. Been broke some more. So that
you're like I've already lived that. That's not new to me.
I'm living that life
right now. You're at the point where like, what's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? It's just like you have to be really smart with your finances. And this is not for the lighthearted, to be honest, because like things might go well. You might increase your book of business, and next thing you know, you're playing with 100 grand. But there are people that blow up accounts. They lose $500,000 in one trade.
On that note, I actually want to talk about how a lot of people might think day trading is like gambling. How do you feel
That's
about
the biggest misconception ever.
Okay, I'm glad you're saying that. Now, tell us your reason.
How is it not gambling?
It's not gambling because
it can be probably, but in the way you do it.
A real day trader. Yeah. People that are trading but they have no guidelines for themselves, that's gambling. And they're just guessing. Oh, it feels like. You know how many people I talk to and I ask them, "Hey, like how did you choose this stock to invest in?" They're just like, "I felt like it would be the one." Ironically, no matter how much emphasis I put on love, your feelings have nothing to do with this. You know what I mean?
In this world.
Yeah. It's a factual game.
It's a factual game. Facts, not feelings.
Yeah. And it's not to diminish the importance of your feelings.
But don't bring that into this.
But don't bring that into this.
Yeah.
And it feels good sometimes. You know what I mean? That like your feelings don't play a part here.
Yes.
Like it feels good as a Gemini. It feels good to have like more than one side. You know, one side I submerge myself into my feelings to the point where I can shed all the tiers I have. And then on another side, it's like none of that means shit.
It's like two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, very
almost.
complete ends of the spectrum, but
Yeah.
somehow they go together.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
But yeah, it's not gambling if you know the risk to reward and management, your risk management. If you have that down, then like none of it is gambling, because we're not taking trades based on what we feel and what we think. We're taking trades based on what we know
And probabilities and statistics, right?
all of that. And there's so many powerful indicators that can work together that will tell you so much. One of these is the RSI indicator and the MACD indicator. I'm not giving any secrets away here.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people know these. Like if you're into stocks and investing, a lot of people know it.
So they're moving averages.
So
right?
what are the
Yeah,
two?
yeah.
What are the two? What are the two?
The RSI is the relative strength index, which tells you when something is overbought or oversold. MACD, I don't even know how to explain it. I really don't know too much about it. I've just relatively recently started to use it with a combination of everything else. That's the thing. By themselves, they don't mean much.
Yeah.
Putting them together.
And with everything else.
Yes.
Volume, other indicators, other moving averages, oscillators, all these other things put together, and everybody has a different setup. There's hundreds of indicators that you can use, and everybody's using it differently, right? It's the combinations. All of these things can literally tell you. Sometimes it's literally screaming at you that like this is what's gonna happen. And I've seen it and I've played it. It gives you goosebumps as well. It gives you this like jolt of energy that is like, it's unlike anything I've ever done.
You can tell the future almost.
You know, like
right?
you guys know who Nostradamus is? The guy who like
I've
fucking.
heard of the name.
It's like you become Nostradamus for a second. Like,
What is that?
he's like some guy that like almost predicted like the future, like fucking Simpsons.
Okay.
Like apparently like the death of Queen Elizabeth was predicted in one of this guy's books in 2022. Like I don't even know how real it is.
That's crazy.
But it's just like somehow you're able to predict and it comes true.
And going back to like the gambling and all of that, right? So it's like a lot of people might be doing things in their life that are actually less calculated than what a day trader could be doing, and technically they're gambling way more. They might be going into a career or a trade or a business that literally makes no sense, and without them even knowing it, they're gambling. But someone that is a seasoned day trader that knows about all these things like risk management and what are some of these other things?
Risk management is huge because like even when you go into a trade, I have like a calculator, it's like a thing on Excel spreadsheet that I created that will tell you based on your book of business, your risk percentage, how many shares you should buy, how much you're set to lose if you max out your risk, and it gives you all that information, right? I used to just like, it says 25 shares I gotta buy, I would go in and just buy 25 shares at my entry point. But the thing is, now when I'm trading, unlike before, I'm not losing 100% of my risk. I'm sometimes losing only 1% of my 1% risk. It's so little that it's like insane to think that it's gambling.
And this is all controlled. You make the decision. You can choose what you want to put up or what you want to.
You kind of already know your odds before you're
there's
trade, right?
There's three main entry points generally. The first entry point, you should only risk 1% of your risk. So my risk right now is 1% of my book of business. So 1% of 1%.
Wow.
Okay, that's your first.
That's like what, 0.01% of your entire thing?
That's
crazy.
So it's very little.
Minimal.
Your second entry point is 0.5 of your 1%. Your last entry point is the remainder. There are a lot of times where I'll jump in with 0.1% risk and the stock will go wrong. Well, guess what? I lost 0.1%, not even 1%, right? And I'm out. Sometimes I lose 0.5. That's very common because like sometimes you'll get the second indicator that pops up for you and you'll jump in for your half size. That's what we call it. And then it goes the wrong way from there. You're only losing 0.5. But if you win, at least you're winning 2 times.
That's the key right there.
That's the difference.
That's something that people probably didn't even think was possible. Risking 0.1%. But being able to win 2 times, that's a huge difference. And I think that can open up a lot of eyes and
absolutely
opportunities.
And that's why it's not gambling at all. You're not jumping in with full size. Like jumping in with full size is a huge risk. I used to do that when I was really, really starting off to trade, like with real money.
Compared to like going to the casino and you're playing a game that's 50-50. And now compare that to like 2 times, which is like 200. 50% and 50% versus now 200% to like
0.1%. Your first entry point is 0.1.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not even gambling.
It's not even gambling,
That's
bro.
like-
Like
That's genius.
I'll lose 10 times at 0.1%, and like it won't even scratch my account.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure a lot of people are like, could be listening to this and they're like, how is this possible? Right? So like for people like that, like
It's possible because wealth is possible.
exactly, right? But like where can people start if they want to go down this path or start learning about
Of day
this path?
trading?
Yeah.
The problem is that like there's so much misguidedness in
So
this
many
industry.
courses
Yeah,
and-
so many courses and false pretenses of what it
Mentors
is.
and gurus
And like and everybody's saying that like people think it's like a get rich quick scheme, but it's the furthest thing from it. You know what I mean? But if you were to get started, I would say just YouTube is a big source to educate yourself on it and really partner yourself up with certain people in the industry, like genuine people. My mentor didn't charge me anything, and I'll forever be grateful for that. You know what I mean? I would have still been down to pay. He was charging people from like 5,000 to 50,000 to teach the things he was teaching. He had like a whole educational thing.
Wow.
And I've known him since like elementary school. And find someone that is genuine, that is in a similar boat to you, and you guys can grow together. That's really important, because at some points you'll think you're crazy, and like
You'll feel like you're losing it.
you feel like you're losing it.
And
because-
having someone there with you
is very important.
Can keep you above water, right?
Yeah, because you learn something and they learn something, and you could bounce it off each other. But at first, education is extremely important. And if I were to emphasize on educating yourself on anything, it wouldn't be on candlesticks. It wouldn't be on historical data. It wouldn't even really be on technical analysis. It would be on risk management, because you could be the greatest trader on planet Earth, but if you have no risk management, one bad trade, you could blow up half your account, all of your account. Risk management is probably one of the most important parts.
And that goes back to that whole 2 times versus the 0. That's where all that comes from.
Yeah.
Right?
And also on a bigger scale, never be afraid to just keep going even when you're confused. There were so many weeks where I would put in hours on hours and I would have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And I would just be like just doing it, but like I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like
that's how you learn how to know.
That's how you learn. And the thing is that like when you're confused, like that's where the self-doubt comes in. That's the same thing how I feel about my writing when I first started off. Like you don't know what you're doing, you're just doing it. You know what I mean? Or like learning an instrument. I love music. I'm very multidimensional. Like you know that about me. You came to my room, bro. You've seen the shit in my room. It's like I'm like 10 different people at the same time.
Here, everywhere.
And like learning an instrument is the perfect example, because one thing that nobody ever talks about when it comes to learning anything, they always talk about, you know, the 1% rule, getting better by 1%, showing up daily, progressing, progression, so on and so on, right? But one thing they never talk about is the power of hope and belief. Because I wrote about it in this book in one entry, but like learning the guitar, right? At first, like you learn one note, then you learn 2 notes, then you learn a simple melody, and you're like, holy shit, like you know, that's dope. And then like you progress a little bit later, you learn how to play a song.
Yeah, eventually you learn how to make a song.
No. Don't even go there yet. And then eventually get to a point where like you've progressed, but like you're playing every day and you're not getting better. It's not changing, right? And that's the moment when people think like, you know what, like maybe this wasn't meant for me then. You know, you reach a plateau. Maybe this wasn't what I was meant to do. But the only thing that takes you from a beginner in anything to a professional is the belief. A core belief that I can do this.
And that's what allows you to break through the plateau.
That's what allows you to break through. And you know what happens? It's like the moment when you plant a little seed in soil, and the day you look away is the day that it sprouts.
Jeez.
You gotta be detached from it. That's the thing.
That's right.
You gotta be detached. You gotta plant it in there. You just gotta do the work that's in front of you. You just gotta water it. You can't expect anything out of it.
And you know, like learning the guitar, all of a sudden you play the same thing you've done for the last 3 months. It takes a long time to learn these things. It's not a 1 week to 2 weeks thing. You gotta put months and years into shit. People like when I was young, I didn't want to. I didn't want to put months and years. I wanted to figure it out in a week. If I didn't, then I'm like, fuck it, this ain't it. Right? But like the guitar, for example, you play the same thing for 3 months, and it's like the 3rd month and one day when you realize like, yo, holy shit, I actually did get better. I actually did improve. Like when
it
did that
becomes
happen?
easier.
Yeah,
It becomes easier.
it becomes easier,
and you go into that flow.
That's right. So same thing with day trading. I honestly can't visualize how I got here.
Mm-hmm.
It's so difficult. Like, where was the tipping point? There was none.
It was just a continuity and,
Yeah.
and you not giving up and
Yeah.
continuing day by
Like a
day
momentum.
by day.
That's right.
Momentum too.
And all the things you learned day by day and all the paper trades you did day by day, right? It all accumulated to where you are now.
And that's what I want everybody to take from this. If they were to take away one thing, it's that, like, just don't give up. And I know it's cheesy and a lot of people say it,
100%,
but
bro.
don't give up.
I live by that, bro.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you, like, you gave two crazy examples of that,
Yeah.
right? You could be playing a guitar and you could want to give up, but because you didn't, now you know how to play.
Yeah.
Or you could be day trading and you want to give up and you've lost X amount of money or whatever it is and you want to give up, but because you didn't, now you know how to day trade and you're making X amount, millions of dollars or whatever it is, right? So it goes to show you, man, just don't give up, just keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And build on that core foundational belief.
Especially if you just believe in it and you know you believe in it, just don't give up. Right?
Like, but my writing is here because of my belief. Where I'm at with day trading is my belief. You know, where I'm at in my life is solely belief. I have nothing to show you guys that, like, I am this person or that, like, I'm going to become this person. And you guys can not believe me and everybody cannot believe me, but it's that belief that I have in myself that one day I will. You know?
All right, guys. Well, clearly the camera has died.
We just realized the camera died. I think it's like just been going in, guys.
Yeah.
The energy's been too high in the room.
Yeah.
The camera couldn't take it.
Yeah. It's one of those episodes where, like, I feel like Kasra has so much to teach and so much knowledge and things that he has that we don't, that we've just been absorbing.
Yeah.
Yo, do you think we could do a part 2?
Possibly.
Definitely.
Definitely. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure
all,
like
all you guys listening on, like, Spotify and Apple Podcasts are like, what the fuck are you guys talking about, you know?
Yeah.
But the camera just died.
The camera's died. So we're at this point, we're kind of forced to wrap things up a bit. We were just talking about belief, right? I want to go back to that and touch upon it. Like, it reminded me of a good lesson, right? It's like, no matter what you want to do, no matter what you want to get into, I think starting off believing in yourself and believing that this is going to do good and this is going to help you, this is going to help you grow, and this is going to get you to where you want to go, and starting off with that belief is key. Because during those times, during the process where you want to give up, think back to that belief and think back to that point where, I truly did believe because I knew it will help me get there.
Definitely.
And that's why I'm not going to quit. And once you get through that and you keep going, that's when you will break through and get to the next level.
It's only your belief that will keep you going.
Exactly. Right? So honestly, I think there's a lot more we can go into in terms of the day trading topic. I think at this point I'm going to make an executive decision and say we're going to be bringing Kasra on for a part 2, because I've personally been talking to Kasra about day trading for the past 2 years, and like, we'd meet up, maybe every couple of weeks, monthly in a sense, and we talk for hours and hours about this shit, and it's so interesting, and I think we can go into it definitely least a little bit more. And so that's why I want to have a part 2 where you come back.
The idea of belief is the thing I want to get across the most, because it's bigger than writing, bigger than day trading, bigger than all of it, and it's a core belief about not even identity, because your identity could change. And this isn't like religious belief that I'm referring to, belief in the self and in, like, the universe. I want everyone to grow that belief in themselves, because that's literally, like, the key to life.
That's the driving force that's going to push you when you feel like not moving forward, like, just knowing that is beyond you. It's like an ego death. You gotta, like, get out of your head and don't make it about you. It's not about you. It's beyond you.
Yeah, and, like, this idea of with love, it's the same thing with my trading. Everything's got to be done with love, and so
tastes better.
Yeah, and that's the belief, right? That's the belief, and I think that can be taken in many ways. People's beliefs are very different, and just stand on that. So that's what I want people to take away. There's a lot of stuff to say about the idea of concept of love as well, and maybe if there's an opportunity we could touch on that next episode. And to be honest, one of the things I've always wanted is to be heard, with, like, my ideas and all of that. So
I'm glad we gave you a chance.
I appreciate that. I really
get out
do.
there and be heard, bro. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna love.
You've been heard and seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, appreciate you guys showing up for today's episode. It's longer than usual episodes. That's why our camera died. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the episode, make sure you guys like the video, share it with whoever you think would enjoy it, especially those who are looking to get into day trading, or those who are, just kind of trying to bet on themselves. And whether you're an author or not, like if you're just looking to just bet on yourself, like this is definitely a very inspiring episode in my opinion. So yeah, definitely share it to them.
Leave us a comment in the DMs or the YouTube comments.
Let us
if
know
you really want to see Kasra back. I'm sure
if you want him to come back, or like just let us know what your favorite part of the podcast was, and like what you want us to kind of go in more detail on. Make sure you guys also subscribe to the channel as well. We drop a new interview with a new guest every second Thursday. Make sure you follow us on all our socials as well. Our socials actually have all the gems from this episode as well will be available on our TikTok and our Instagram.
And also, I just want to thank you guys for having me on here and for what you guys do again. And I hope you guys have this belief in yourselves as well to never stop doing what you're doing 100%. And continue to add value to people's lives. So I appreciate you guys for having me here. I know I'm your boy and you guys are my boy and everything, but I'm really grateful and I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Likewise, brother. Likewise, brother. And before we get off the podcast here, there's one thing that's possible, and what is that?
The wealth is possible.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening, and until next time, take it easy.
Thanks, guys. Wow.